Good evening and welcome to Livid Comics Lair. Tonight's guest is an audio actor who specializes in doing a lot of books. He's read over 370 novels. He's done work in film, video games. You've probably heard his voice just through Natural Course of Life. If you haven't, you've been hiding under a rock for the last 10, 20 years or so. We've connected with him from Chismar's Chasing the Boogeyman. So please welcome our guest, Mr. Chris Ciulla.
He's on fire!
Yeah, people have been calling him the Ghost Rider. So
yeah, that wasn't a bad Nick Cage.
People have been calling him no. Hey, there's an echo somewhere. Does everyone else hear that?
Yeah, the echo.
Yeah. Does someone have? This is process of elimination here.
Yeah, it's a plate again.
It's not coming from your end, Chris. I muted you, and this is process of elimination here.
So I'm only on this.
You have nothing else open. It's not coming from your end, Chris. I muted you, and this is process of elimination here.
So I'm only on this.
You have nothing else open. It's not coming from your end, Chris. I muted you, and this is process of elimination. I'm only on this. You have nothing.
Found it.
There it goes. Did you have the YouTube link open?
It was the original YouTube link that you guys sent me. That was on the other it was on what do you call it? Safari.
Gotcha.
Which we can't use here. So yes, sneaky, very sneaky. Yeah, we wanted to be in stereo like that. We wanted to trick people into thinking we have more horror going on, more horrible.
Quadraphonic, like Led Zeppelin 1974 kind of a feel there for a moment. So.
Absolutely, and it make horror is just short for horrible.
Yeah.
So as long as I can make it more horrible, I'm doing my job.
You just gave us our show tagline. Holy moly, that's beautiful.
This is why we do tests. This is why we do a test beforehand. And then I could have been, if I even had it on my Leonardo audio group going right now, I would have screwed something else up. It would have been like a third noise coming out of somebody's ear. All right.
It's right in. That's how we roll here. So it's you get what you pay for show. So that's what
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming on. I reached out to you because we had Chismar on talking Chasing the Boogeyman, and I actually bought the hardcover. I was reading the hardcover, but we try to read the books before we have the guest on so we can be prepared.
Sure.
And I was running up on a deadline, so I downloaded the audio to try to finish the book, and I'm like, man, this is freaking awesome. So
I appreciate it.
When we were talking to him on the show, we were asking him, about the audiobook, and he mentioned your name, so that's why I searched you, and here we are. So.
Yeah, man, it was a really terrific process, and for this year was definitely one of the highlights of my of the performances that I've had. By the end of the year, I'll do probably 60 this year, but and I got a top 5, and Chasing the Boogeyman has got to be top 3. Like out of the entire year, and was in, because everything has its own genre, like there sometimes it's apples and oranges that you're comparing. But if I could tell you a little story about how I booked it, I literally saw the ad on Twitter. I saw the ad.
Wow.
And I looked it up a little bit, and I learned a little bit about the book, and you couldn't even find the book yet. It was way before it was even released, but they were doing like these preemptive strikes on social media. And I'm like, I had not worked yet for I had not worked for Simon and Schuster, or I did like just a short in an anthology for them. So I had not worked for Simon and Schuster a lot. And I said, you know what? Let's give it a shot. I said, hey, I'd be great at this hybrid thing you guys have going on. Look at my stuff. Maybe I'll be the right guy for you. And like, that should not happen where they actually come back to you and go, you know what? We brought you up to the author and he said, yes, he loves your stuff. Like, let's go. I'm like, all right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So like, I don't want to, so every once in a while you could take a shot like that. And the timing is right and the genre is right and you're right for it, because I do a good amount of thriller horror stuff, but more on the suspense thriller side than the horror side. But I did do a book a couple of years ago called The Handyman by Bentley Little.
I saw that.
My friend John Perala does a lot of his stuff, but that book is like the best 4/5 of a book. Like until the end kind of goes, wah, but the whole thing like is just a wonderful ride, and it made me want just to do more of this stuff, a lot more of it. And and it was just the other interesting thing about this book was, as you're prepping it, and I know you wanted to talk a little bit about prepping, John. Like, so as I'm reading it, and I know what it is, I know it's a hybrid. I know it's fiction, right? And I'm reading it, and I kept on having to check myself, like, is this fiction? Because, I took like punches that I should never have taken through my 20s and 30s, and like tried to be a little bit of a fighter when I definitely was not. And like, so my brain sometimes goes into little unfunctional bouts, and I'm like, maybe this is this is not fic. Like, I was kind of like, no, this is not fic. And I read about 50 of the pages like as it was non-fic, and then I went back to my notes. I'm like, no, this is fiction. Okay, no, this isn't real, because you're reading like the guy. I mean, I am Richard in the project, and so it's so well done like that, and that's why you get some of the polarized reviews. Like people love it, but then you've got every once in a while you have somebody who's like, I got duped, where, I'm like, there's nothing I can say, because I was duped too as I was reading it, but in a good way. You know what I mean? Like, I enjoyed being duped, but somebody may not have enjoyed that. Like, so, but what a ride, man. I mean, and scary, just like down to earth scary, like serial killer, serial experience. Just and you go to those places and you really experience them. So that's what the audiobook medium lets us experience.
Oh yeah, like you said, it's just that where you think it's real almost. I mean, you feel like you're reading a biography. And I remember, it's funny that you say that, because I was pretty pumped up about the book because they did promote it for months before. Like, he had his little teaser trailer, the cover hooked me. I'm just reading about the story. And I remember Joel asking me before the show, before he read it, as we're prepping, he's like, talking about being fiction. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure like 90% of this is true. And at the time I thought the serial killer was true. And so I'm sitting there telling him this, and then I like researched it after.
Him, you know what I mean? Like, he's in the book. He's in his own book. So
yeah.
Crazy.
But that's cool.
All right, Chris. First, thank you for taking the time to be here with us. And I was watching some of your stunts, some crazy, like a mixed stuff. And I realized that you have taken not only the time to study on your lines, doing your acting, and also is a good quality film wise. And were you at the time? I think it was around 2014 or so.
Okay.
Were you at the time like searching for an acting career instead, or what were you trying to accomplish at the time?
Sure. You know, from basically the late 90s, the goal was to be a film actor, film, TV, commercial, in whatever market would be the most viable. And at the time, you know, New York was not an active place because of the lack of tax incentives. They were, you know, pretty dead. And then obviously 9/11 happened. So, you know, there wasn't any TV going on in New York. So myself and about 7 other friends who were in the same acting class all moved out to LA together. And that was in '02, in January '02. We arrived like January 2nd, '02. And so I was pursuing that for, you know, film, TV, and commercial work, not really voiceover yet, for years. I got into voiceover in about '04, and then I got a good agent in '06 or '07. And from that point on, I started really pursuing video games and commercial work and animation. And so that's how this whole process kind of started. And the thing for some people like me, you keep on finding genres of work as you go through your career. Like you keep on finding more things that you can pursue, and they just become part of the game of trying to become a full-time actor and not a waiter or a personal trainer or you know, managing whatever store you're managing on Ventura in Studio City. You know, that's what we're all trying to do. And it just so, you know, so of course, and right before I moved to New York, I had three consecutive jobs in motion capture. So I was, you know, with my boxing background, that put me in a certain category of people who can do some fight choreography. And so I got a couple of really cool jobs. And then my wife wanted to move to New York to pursue, you know, she jumped up in her career. And then I had in 16 I had to start planning the move to New York. And then so we lost the advantage of the motion capture career, because you really have to be in LA or on the West Coast for that. You have to be in LA or Vancouver or San Francisco. But, you know, because all the publishers are in New York, and I started to just mingle with them more and more. As soon as I moved to Hoboken in 17 and built a home studio, I was full-time from that point on. So that's the whole like kind of generation of where what I've been doing. But, you know, you look at my IMDb page, is like, you know, 52 projects and like, you know, only about 10 that you've heard of.
Hey, I'll tell you. I'll tell you right now. Both my brothers are huge Fallout fans, so
oh, cool.
They're probably thinking this is the best show that we're gonna do. You know,
I'll do some dips. Ready? I'm gonna do a couple dips.
Yeah. Oh man. So
you hear that? I mean, most of my jobs is like, ready. Hey, you hear that? Nah, it's nothing. Let's go. It's like when you're walking through the thing, you get your gun in your hand and you see the guy walking by.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I don't know. Let's go.
That's
me.
Man.
That's me. I'm that guy. Is that it? So Fallout, I did like all the ghouls. I did like 75% of the ghouls in Fallout New Vegas. And then I was not in 4 because I had a crappy agent and they weren't giving me love. And when I found 4 was released, I connected with one of the lead writers who was from Southie. He's from Southie. His name's Emil. And I just said, hey, F it, let's give it a shot. And he was nice enough to connect with me, and I told him all the stuff that I had done before. And then that's how I got into Far Harbor. I was in the, you know, a lot of the because now that they knew that I was a Bostonian and it was the same casting people, and they're like, where were you? We would have put you in this in a second. Where were you? And I'm like, well, that's a long story because everything, like sometimes agents, because in video games, they're not transparent. So you don't know what's coming out. They actually use another name for it while they're creating it. They don't use the actual name of the game because they don't want like all the stuff to just kind of go out on the market and be released to the public too early. So that got me in Far Harbor, and obviously they know I'm a New Englander, so I did a bunch of Mainers, and they had like some jokes set up too that I didn't even know that were jokes. There's a hidden joke, like if you guys are wrestling fans, you know the like Bray Husky or Bray
Bray Wyatt.
What were their names?
Bray Wyatt, the Wyatt
Bray
family.
Wyatt. So they named all the brothers in this fish company that went kaput, and then basically all of Far Harbor got irradiated. So there's a story in each of these holotapes. There's 4 holotapes you find. That's all part of the story. I didn't even know this at the time. It's an inside joke. It's an Easter egg. If you're a WWE fan, you'll know that it's these guys. And so if you go back and watch that stuff, you'll die laughing because each time it's like and the character's funny. The joke to me was I never know how to shut off the holotape. So each one you heighten, like it's heightening the joke. So I don't know how to shut this thing off. And then like the last one, I'm getting eaten by a gulper. I'm literally getting eaten. And then I'm like, I still can't shut it off. That kind of thing.
That's awesome. So when you were talking about your coming up through and the choreography, you mentioned that you had a background in boxing. I had not planned to ask about this. That's the first I heard of that. So what were you an amateur boxer, or what did you do on the boxing?
I tried. So put it this way, I got into it late. My brother-in-law is Richie the Mountain LaMontagne. So he back in the late 90s and the aughts, he fought for like a few fringe titles. He was ranked like up to number 7 in the world in cruiserweight.
Wow.
And I was really good friends with Dana Rosenblatt, who went to MC when I went to Everett, and we used to train together at World Gym in Somerville. So I was training. I tried to fight a little bit. I was going to try to be a welter, get down to welter. And my father told me not to. He said, you're the only person in our family with a college education. Please don't do this. And you're going to stink anyway. He's like, you're not, he was really truthful. He goes, only not even the champions, like they turn it to like fried eggs. Like, what are you doing? Like, why would you do this? So I did not do it. But then I moved to LA. And when I moved to LA, those chains are not there anymore. And so I tried 2 more times in LA, even to have an amateur bout. And I kept on getting hurt. Like I hurt my back really bad. And then I tore a rotator cuff. And then I tore a labrum after the rotator cuff. And I was like, this is not destined to be me. But then I became a boxing trainer. And so then I was head trainer at Crunch in LA. And we used to put on smokers. So, I put on for a little while. I was put on smokers every 3 or 4 months. And do you guys know what a smoker is?
It's a special suit.
Yeah. Well,
it's a non-sanctioned amateur bout.
Okay.
So a smoker is when you're it's a system of amateur bouts, but they're not sanctioned. No one getting blood tested, and it's basically a little bit above sparring. So you run it the way you want to run it. If you can let guys go, or you can tell them to ease off, that kind of stuff. And then I put on a smoker, and the last one, the bosses at the club were begging me to fight in it. So lo and behold, I fight my buddy Andre Brooks, who's a Canadian national champion, and actually was going to be on the Contender, and they didn't let him on because he didn't have any pro fights. But he beat 2 of those guys. He beat 2 of those guys up that were on the show, and they didn't let him on. And then I get to spar with him. I get to spar with him, and because he knew I knew what I was doing a little bit, and he took full advantage of me. And that's why my nose is where it is, because I didn't get it fixed. So that's why I have one really long side of my face and one short. So that's what happened. So after that, I became a basically when I left Crunch, I became a trainer for CEOs. Like, so I would train, I'd become a trainer for CEOs, and I would, incorporate boxing into our training. And then I would bring guys to spar. I would like set them up that way. And so that became my business, within trying to still, pursue performance in LA. That was and I was very fortunate to do that while I was out there. So in LA, I was fortunate to fall into a couple of jobs that made me that had jobs with juice. I had that, and then I also was one of the head doormen at the largest nightclub in LA at the same time. So that was Avalon. You're familiar with Avalon in Boston.
Yeah.
So they, like, two of those guys, John Lyons and Steve Edelman, went out, and I was Steve Edelman's boxing trainer at Crunch. They went out and bought the Palace on Vine and Hollywood, and they created Avalon. And I was training Steve at the same time that I was working at House of Blues as the doorman there, and Barney Holm, who was the general manager of House of Blues, and him and Steve Edelman were in cahoots, and they were gonna, because Barney was leaving House of Blues to go to the Palace, which became Avalon. So when they both said, "What do you think about this guy, Chris? Chris works for me," and then it was just like, okay. And then I was thrown into basically a year of hell, because I was never one of those guys. I never worked club security growing up. I was not like that rough guy. I didn't do that. I mean, I knew a little boxing, but I'm 5'8", 160, 170 pounds. You deal with monsters. People are monsters, and I'm not wrestling anybody. And the other thing is, they don't let you punch anybody. Like, so the only thing I can do is punch. I can't kick. I'm not a Muay Thai guy, right? And I'm not a jiu-jitsu guy. So the only thing I can do is punch people. And they're like, "Oh, no, you can't punch people." I'm like, if I'm getting beat up, well, why can't I? We'll get sued. We're going to get, we're going to get sued. And plus, you're a boxing trainer. That means there's going to be additional charges on you and us. And I'm like, so I basically, I'm like, so what am I doing here? And then my fellow doorman comes up and he goes, "Because you're gonna make $1,000 in tips. Just shut up and do what I do." And then I did. I was making money, on a Saturday night. So that's how I made up for taking a few beatings here and there and not being able to punch somebody when you
have to deny the ugly girls from getting in the club? You were that guy who put up the rope to, like, no ugly girls.
I was very nice. I was a nice guy. If they, as long as they had a good ratio, we were fine. Everybody, no need to be mean. No need to be.
In the movie, though, they're like, no, you're good, ladies.
Everybody had money to spend. That's what my boss told me. Everybody's got money to spend. And the thing is, like, so at that job, the funny part about that job, I would go in at 5 and work a concert from like 6 to probably 10:30. And then I would switch over to a nightclub from 11 to about 3. And then at 3, it became an after hours club. Jeez. And then it went from 3 to 9.
Whoa.
I shit you not, till 9 a.m. And we would, like, draw straws to see who was staying till 9 and who was leaving at 5 or 6. And I would, and the bar closed at 2 and reopened at 6.
Wow.
So people would, like, who were still there, because they were, they were on, like, K and, God, they're on, like, the whole alphabet soup of drugs. So, I became an expert on, like, what someone was on when they came in. Like, if they were speeding up, or if they were, like, if they, like, whatever they were doing, I became an expert on that. And you know what the scariest part was? The scariest part was leaving at 4:30 and worrying about if someone knew, like, how I gathered money and where it was. Because now I have to walk from the door to probably just a block, but it's 4:30 in the morning, and it doesn't take much to, like, to have two guys pull you aside and then it's done. So I was very lucky in a lot of ways, very lucky, but it was a really cool experience, man. And it you know, from being a very sheltered boy working in politics in Massachusetts off by poli sci, you know, I worked for Ed Markey, who was the senator of Massachusetts. Now he was a representative working in Medford and Framingham. So I used to work in those offices until I was, you know, 25, and then said, no, screw this. You know, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be an actor. And then I was able to go back to BC and be a retreat coordinator for a year and live on Upper Campus and be a peer minister to 18-year-olds when I was 25 and I was younger than them. I was like, I'm giving you advice, but I'll tell you, it sounds bad. I know you're asking me, like, you know, what's the right thing to do in the world right now? And I'm like, I know for a fact that 75% of the stuff I'm telling you is wrong. It's wrong now. It's probably even gonna be more wrong in a week. You know, that's the life.
Yeah, but I reckon all those life experiences that like actually add up to your acting, to your voice and impersonations. And I was really stunned by the amount of books you have read, like a 315 plus.
Yeah, 370 now.
I mean,
last time I checked,
370.
Right yeah. What happens to you when you do a voiceover for a book? Like, do you have to learn a subject if it's a technical book or if it's a novella or something? Do you have to get all the information in first before doing the voice, or you just go with the flow?
Well, there's a lot of you know, and I teach a good amount of this to up and coming narrators. You know, I have a few programs that I, you know, teach a lot of this stuff, and it all depends. You talked about, you know, does one study the actual subject matter before they do, like, so we're talking, that's concerning nonfiction. And when it comes to nonfiction, you don't have to know it. But the truth is, even in nonfiction, it's just important to be a really good actor. The reason is, in nonfiction, you're becoming the author. You are the author. So if you own it, if you own that copy like the author owned the copy, it doesn't matter, because you're in the moment and you are the author, and that is what you're reading is the holy grail of your life. So, you know, you are, if you make that commitment, reading that nonfic, and you do a little homework on the energy of the author. Like, say, nowadays, it's most of the time the author will have a TED talk, or they'll have a conference that they have some footage of. Excuse me. And if the author is really laconic, like has a very laid back energy, and your energy is higher than his, then maybe the energies have to meet a little bit somewhere in the middle, because you want to be convincing for their particular copy that they've written. But if you're not an energetic guy, and the energy, you know, the subject matter and the energy is strong, then you want to lift your energy up. And so, but a lot of this is, most of the time, especially when we're working for producers and publishers, the casting is good. They know what they need. So they're going to find that from a particular narrator who has the skill set and the characteristics that will make that book pop.
When you're going into a book and a project like that, how hands-on are they once they hand it off to you? Is there like a producer that would work with, say, like a band, like, hey, we need to nerf this, I need you to really emphasize this character more? What does that type of relationship look like once the ball's in your court?
Yeah, not really. Depending on who you're working with, what happens with a lot of the big five companies. Now we're talking Penguin Random House, Hachette, Macmillan, HarperCollins, and Simon and Schuster. And there might be a big four soon. The DOJ's put a little stop to that in the meantime. But their process, a lot of those companies are hiring directors for us. And even if I'm reading, say, from my home and working from this home studio, which is a professional home studio, they will assign a director. So the process with the director would be, I do my prep, meaning I read the book once. And while I go through that whole book once, I do a lot of notes and I do a full character list, and I figure out what voices I'm going to apply to who. And then you'll talk with the director before we start recording to see if they have any notes that they want to give, or like what you're leaning toward it would be from the director. It would say, hey, well, what are you planning to do with this particular character? But most of the time, even the directors will trust us, and the producers will trust us to make the right choices. And we'll get a good synopsis that if the author wants notes and wants to give notes on the world that the story takes place in, that will help us like really tell a good, be in the right place, have the right tone, those sorts of things. Then we'll take advantage of that. Forgive me, my light went up. And then, but the directing in audiobooks is really keeping people from going off the reservation. Like that's what it's for. It's for like, okay, you're getting really big right now. Like that's a very binary term, a lot of actors don't use, but like just giving as an example, like if someone's getting too big, too loud, going for it too much, the director will be like, you know what, let's pull all this back about 25%, get a little quieter, and pull that listener's ear back in, and let's keep them engaged. Those sorts of things. Or if the narrator may make a wrong choice, and the director will figure that out and go, oh, no, that shouldn't be Irish. That's actually Scottish. Things like that. Yeah. So it's and that happens with a lot of the big fives, but a lot of the jobs that we do are home records, and they are self-direct. That's just that is where the industry has gone over the last, say, 10 years. And it really started with the advent of ACX, which allows. So ACX is the Audiobook Creation Exchange that was created in 2011, 10 years ago, by Audible, and they basically set up a system where small rights holders, meaning authors or small publishers, can get together with up and coming narrators who have home studios, and they can, as long as they put together professional sounding audio that's clean, they can release it. Oh, and wow. And then, so when people saw that everything was taking the costs down for production, then everyone got into that game. Yeah.
No, are you doing everything like doing cleaning it up in post, doing the mastering, like all of that type of work also, or is does the raw audio get fed off to someone else to edit and kind of produce after you guys have recorded the initial tracks?
For all the professional jobs that I do, professional meaning they are with producers or publishers, I'm not doing any of the post.
Okay.
So when I am the narrator, I am giving them essentially, we'll put in quotes, raw audio, because some like me to do a pass on it to remove, like, say, mouth clicks, like simple, but everything, if we're doing anything, it's very minimal. So they're basically, so they can apply their own mastering chains with their own post-production teams. Because if we overproduce it, then their mastering chain won't do the same thing that they want it to, and it won't sound the same. So that's when I work for publishers and producers. Now I have my own company called Leonardo Audio. I'm a producer and I'm a publisher now, and so I have post-production people under me. So when I'm a producer and someone's paying me to produce their audio, I am handling all of that, and the post-production happens under me, and I furnish them with a fully mastered product, and then I'm out. Then I don't have any more involvement. When I'm publishing, that means I have a stake in the game long term. So I I'm in charge of the distribution on that. So I decide where it goes after I finish producing it.
And you're also a voice coach, aren't you?
Yes. I enjoy it. I like, I enjoy teaching. I've been teaching a bit since 2009. So back in 2009, my dad had cancer, and my dad is no longer with us, but he had cancer in 2009. And I needed reasons to go back to Boston. And so I started teaching how to basically the business of acting. I started teaching how someone gets into performance, what they need in their briefcase, where do they go first, how do they take full advantage of their local market, and then when is it best to jump to a big market, and then when you get to a big market, how do you handle it? What do you do? What do you need? What are the real jobs that you can have while you're establishing yourself? All that stuff. What are the, should you go with an industry centric job or non-industry centric job when you're trying to pursue something in the industry? Like even questions like that. So I answered all that, and we did that for 4 years, and I had a blast with it. I just couldn't monetize it. I taught in like 4 different cities, but each time it was like, you have to get people you have to know mavens. Like you have to know people who can pull other people in. And I'm not a maven. I'll never be a maven. And it's hard for me to like attract mavens for some reason. So that ended then. And then once, I started really pursuing audiobooks I started thinking about it in 2009. I started studying it in 2011, and I started pursuing it in late 2012. So not until like 2018 did I start doing privates, like quietly. And then at the end of 2019 is when I started doing classes. And so it's been a nice, organic generation into what it is today. And so, and now we do, I put on like with Boston Casting, which is a large local entity that handles a lot of TV and film now because Massachusetts has a great tax credit. I teach a 3 audiobook course, 3 class course every 2 or 3 months. And then I teach one-offs, probably in between either 1 or 2 one-offs in between those. And then I now run workshops. Workouts that people can pay a very small amount and work copy either when they're not busy that week, or they want to try a new genre that they want to do risk in a very low risk situation. Or people can just audit if they're really new at it and still nervous. They can just watch a bunch of other actors work and still learn from that. So, it's been, it keeps me alive, like, and the great thing about audiobooks is, I'll tell you, I'm somebody who's been doing this a long time now. And it stinks. I'm trying to keep the hair. It's very hard to keep the hair on my head, guys. I took Propecia for like 14 years, and then I had to get off it because I felt like it just felt like it was keeping me down. And then I got off it and lifted like an animal for 1 year after that. And then I kept on hurting myself. But the hair, it's all about the hair, guys, keeping the hair on there.
Yeah, I know.
Starting to go too. It's all going, man. It's all going. So how do we stay young? I'll tell you, the audiobooks, when you are in the moment for like a 12-hour book, the whole book, man, it keeps you alive. And some projects are hard. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's long. The process is sometimes very tedious, and it gets, and it's hard. I mean, sometimes maybe you have to do 6, 7, 8 accents in a book. And if you're going to be good at those, it's a lot of time. That's a lot of study. That's a lot of like making sure you're doing it the right way. And, but it's worth it. It's worth it all. I literally did the hardest nonfiction book I've ever done 2 weeks ago. Literally 2 weeks ago. I've been doing this 10 years, 2 weeks ago. But you got to do it. You got to get through it. You got to make it palatable to the listener. You had to
I
wear.
was just imagining now, like you would, if you had a book, you would have to do a Brazilian accent. That would be a hard work for you.
It's Brazil. Brazil. I love the. So where are you from? What town?
I'm from Salvador, northeast.
Northeast. Now, what's the biggest
Yeah.
city near you?
I would say São Paulo.
Sao Paulo. Okay. So,
Yeah.
so I did a villain for a James Bond spoof. If you guys want to get some laughs. So my buddy Harris Orkin, who was originally a copywriter in the ad world and has become a very prolific video game writer. He wrote he's got like a James Bond spoof series that we're doing through Podium. And I was able to pitch it to Podium and they took it. And it's great. It's James Flynn is the guy, and all the titles are like play on are puns of actual like James Bond titles, and and the bad guy Gallardo is Brazilian. Now,
of course, yeah,
not easy, but I studied my tail off. Now, the problem with doing some accents, like I'm an Italian, like I'm literally 100% Italian. But when you do an Italian character, you can't add anything.
Yeah.
You can't add come se dice, you can't add any of that. It has to be like what you're doing. So everything comes down. It's a little more subtle. Everything like you got to bring it down to like what's on the page. But the rhythms, like the Brazilian rhythms, they talk like there's specific thing because we have so much MMA. There's so many people from MMA that are Brazilian that there's so much stuff on YouTube that it's just like it's like a fountain of love that someone like me who wants to do Brazilian could just sit there and just play.
Yeah, just watch them. Yeah.
For the rhythms, specific rhythms for Brazilian, they talk. I'm not even doing the sounds. Like, but that is the way they talk. So some Brazilian people have that kind of. It's kind of like you're on a little bit of a wave. You're on a raft on like on an ocean.
Yeah. That would depend on where you're from because it's a big country. Like
it's very. Like if the R's become an H sound, like in our language, like the huh, and, all the Gracies, how all their names are R's, but they're H's now. You know what I mean? So they used to call him Royce, but like that we know it's Hoyce. So totally like
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and like on a lot of work, I was thinking. When you have to do those kind of accents and you would have to go into the character and make them different from one another, I would say it's a big challenge for you if you have for example, you have a Scottish guy.
Sure.
On the same book, you have another Indian mate, and you have a Chinese person.
Sure.
Who can barely speak English, and that's a lot of work because I would say it would have to spend loads of hours listening to those kind of people just to make head and tails of it, and sometimes you have a deadline.
So I'll tell you. Do? Is it Rogerio? How do you pronounce your name for me?
Rogerio.
Yeah. So
yeah, you got it.
First person.
Well, hey man, listen. I'm not.
He's a professional.
I might not be good at it, but I did study it. Like I know those are that's an H sound. So understand, like that. For me, okay, when it comes to reading, especially fiction, I'm a host. I have a host background, and I'm a sketch comic. That is my original job and performance in 1998. 1990 and in 97 I became a sketch comic, and so characters is my life. Characters is like my core of what I do. So when building these characters in their accents and their differentiation, and like doing the homework on their full background, like, you know, in the Uta Hagen 9 questions style, but for comedy. That's like my background. And so building these characters is not the hardest thing in the world for me. It's not like, it's what I love. So mine is just, now you've got to understand, though, someone's got to be able to listen to that character for 12 hours. So you can't be blowing their ear out, and you can't be annoying them if the character isn't meant to be annoying. So like, we've got to find a way to like temper things down. Everything in audiobooks, smaller is better, quieter is better. Trust me. Like, anyone out there who wants to do this for a living, trust me on those two very binary terms. Smaller is better, quieter is going to be better every time. But when it comes to these characters, I've been working on accents for 20 years now. So I have a pattern. When I get into it, I know what I need to do. I know the work that's required in order to get there. And then some people, if they're from that area, they'll still be like, oh, that's shit. That guy's terrible. But compared to like what audiobooks are, I put the time in as best I could. So I have a series that I'm gonna start doing again as an example of this, called Bob and Nikki. I've done 15 of the books already. I just got greenlit for another 6. They're all under Podium Audio's banner. And Bob is a guy from the Ozarks, the Missouri Ozarks. Okay, not the Arkansas Ozarks. And then he meets aliens that come down, and the main hot alien is basically, may she rest in peace, Mira Furlan. So she's an old school Yugoslavian accent. So you got somebody who's from the Ozarks conversing with someone from Yugoslavia for 15 books. And that's, so you want to talk about two accents that are nowhere in the same planet. That's an example of what we've got to do. And it comes down to like their relationship. Like once you develop that relationship, it's, the characters are going to bounce back and forth, and you're, in our minds, in an audiobook narrator's multiple personality mind, this is what we master. We master that ability to go from 2, 3, 4, 5 characters sometimes in a moment, and have them all differentiated, and have them all have different attitudes, and have them all have different motivations for seeing what they want, what they hate, and we have to do this and still, try to make a buck.
Yeah. That's the part that fascinates me though the most, is the prep that goes into the different characters. And like, so you mentioned, so you do a read through, you take notes. Is it usually just one read through and notes, or like, are you like, in my mind, I picture like, if I ever would try to do that, I feel like I'd have to color code the dialogue so I knew like when characters are switching. Yeah. Okay.
People do color code. Okay. They, I don't. What I've learned is I use letters on the side of, so I highlight, most of us highlight our dialogue, I highlight just in yellow everywhere so that I see that dialogue coming. But on the left side of the page, I will mark a letter for the first name, for the first letter of the character. And if you're dealing with like Amy talking to Aaron, I'll do like a double A for Aaron so that I know that it's Aaron, or, so but you'll just make sure that those characters are differentiated by a letter on the left, so you see it early.
Okay.
But there are people who take the time to with their annotation programs, because we're doing everything on an iPad now, and we're doing everything with an app. So like the main app that people use is called iAnnotate. And it allows for a lot of options for annotation. And you can even embed audio into your PDF, so that if you have, say it's a nonfiction project about world history, and there's a lot of names in there that you are researching. You can embed your names into the PDF and then press on it and hear your own voice and then say it.
Okay.
So there are ways that we can be efficient with it. I just couldn't do colors quickly. Like that's one of those things where I wouldn't be good at it. And even like marking colors, it's not part of my pattern. But lots of people do it, and lots of people do it better than I do.
Yeah, being a voice actor, you have to go through different pitches, different personalities, and you have to change your tone from one guy to the other. And I would like to ask you why those voice guys, they rarely are good singers, because it's the same skill.
They are good singers or not good?
They're often they are not.
I mean, it depends. Some people, I would just say in general, their background probably just isn't in musical theater. Can
you sing?
Well, wait a second. Let me. I sing.
All right, if you're a drinker, you can.
I do the Crash Test Dummy song as Chris Walken. That's what I sing. That's all I can sing. Once there was this guy who was staring at me too much. Yeah, eyeballs bulging out of his face. So and I would just make up like the dialogue as you go. But no, I'm not a good singer. No. Maybe, I don't know. My wife says, I have sung well at particular moments, but I've never been trained to sing. But I just think that it's a different modality. Like, so it's still using our voice. It's understanding like your, you can have all the same information about the voice, but the modality, the actual usage of the voice is completely different. And a lot of people who sing have been doing it forever, since they were children. So, yeah. That matters too. But we do find that we do have a good amount of musical theater people that do read audiobooks. So those people will be good at it.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of that, what happens? What's the feeling when you finish your voice work? Like, do you go about listening to all you've done, or you just leave it out there?
Well, what I do is if I did a true crime book, what I'll do is I'll put on all black. I'll go out I'll go out in all black. I won't put a full mask on, but I'll put a black hat on, and I'll go jogging and I'll go fight crime. I will actually find someone breaking into a house and smash the back of their head. And that brings me such joy, after I read a true crime book. No, I mean, hey man, it's the job, it's the work. This is what I got to do. I enjoy every book for particular reasons, and then I would love to say, yeah, I rejoice. I bake a cake each time, but no, it's like you move on to the next. You move on to the next. It is. We aren't rock stars, where a lot of us are. We know we're middlers. That's just where we live. I know right now, if I ever become like a star, it's not going to be from reading audiobooks. It's going to become from a project that I pitch going, and me being a part of that thing for some reason. So, we are the worker bees of the performance world. Now,
you don't have to be a rock star to feel like one.
This is true.
It helps though. It helps to have access to those drugs, because when you don't have access to those drugs, you just don't really feel like it.
Yeah.
Like, even though Vincent Neil looks like a potato puff, like I'm sure he had a lot more highs than I have. You know what I mean? Like he may look like just like kind of like a puffed up kind of he looks like a tater tot.
Man, the first 15 years was awesome for him. No, but the last 15 years, man.
Every complaint, like everyone's like, he did 3 songs and he sucked. I'm like, why did you go 4 times then? You said the last 4 times, and you keep on hoping for something. Like, what's the rule? If something keeps on happening, I forget the cliche, but that's it right there.
It's the definition of insanity, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Just remember the good times. Let it go, man. Don't go falling back up and check in on her. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Go Sox.
One question that I had, kind of a statement too, is obviously some audiobooks can be, I shouldn't say some, audiobooks are made by, who's narrating them, really. So
I like to think so.
I mean, 100%.
That, thankfully.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to audiobooks where I know the story's great, but I'm just not captivated by what I'm listening to, But one of the things that, and I'm sure it's got to be difficult to master, but like gender swapping, going from male to female and back and forth or whatever, like when it's a female trying to do a male and they're overdoing it, or vice versa, male trying to do female and overdoing it, like I just feel like that's so distracting and can ruin the audiobook.
Sure.
Where do you find that balance? Like when you're having to do a female voice, like how far do you take it to not be not a satire, but basically
like falsetto for a woman.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really you've got to stay true to you. And you've got to trust the listener a little bit to be able to make that differentiation when you, as the narrator, make a choice. We might change our pitch a little bit, but if it feels unnatural, most likely it sounds unnatural. So truth is like what we're trying to do the whole book, and it's keeping the listener in. Remember, everything comes back to keeping the listener in, not like the way you feel right now. Like, I don't want to hear that anymore. Like, so it's my job to keep you with me. It really is. And that dictates some of the choices that we make, in our storytelling. And as long as we couple that with the specs of the character and how the character is described, and make sure that we're being truthful to the author, you don't have to have a huge amount of differentiation, but we do it. It's best to do it in attitudes, and like wants and needs and those sorts of things. And that allows us to like do things that are actionable, so for actors, that's really important. It's important to like do things, like make choices that we can actually do, and not like just kind of be in the ether and kind of like make generalities. That like the more specific we can be, the better. But specificity doesn't mean big and being large, right?
Yeah.
So it's about and this is something that has challenged me throughout my career. I've got people in some of my reviews are like, I hate his female voices, but a lot of it is subjective too. A lot of it is just, someone hears it and they don't believe it. And all we can do as performers is just stay as true to the character and as true to the words as possible.
Yeah.
And if we do that and give enough differentiation where you can feel the difference, and if it's a male and a female, have them be different. If they're inherently different as people, then that should be enough.
That's that's exactly what I would want to hear, to be honest. Like and sometimes, I forget I think it was Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I listened to that and I felt bad for the girl that was narrating it, because it's like 6 characters in the whole book. It's basically takes place at this cabin, and 4 of them are males, 2 of them are females, but one of the females is like a 9-year-old girl. Mm-hmm. So like the majority of the book, she's trying to talk like a male, and I just felt like I was listening to my wife mock my voice, like when she's basically saying, like John said this, like, and I'm like, that's what I felt like I was listening to, you know. But so
I think also a lot of times it's hard, you know. I think we've got to, especially with females doing males, it's important to suspend our disbelief. You know, it's important to like to buy in. You know, give it a shot. And I know, and depending on the person, sometimes their voice, it's just hard. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to execute. But it's you know, we do the best we can with the copy that we have, and as we keep on going, we just get better at it. You know, we learn from if we go a little bit too far, or we're trying something a little too much. Also, you know what also helps is archetypes. You know, like understanding archetypes and how to use them. If you know, for some people who are having trouble with that kind of stuff, if they can lean into an archetype but still stay true to the origins of the character, like, so the archetype kind of like guides you where you want to go, but then you still have to build the background of the character to make sure it's a real person. As long as you do that, then now we're doing some really good storytelling, you know.
Yeah.
But there are women who are unbelievable at it, you know. Like I have some like Hillary Huber and Robin Miles. I mean, these are legends that have been doing this stuff for forever. And you know, you don't know, you know, an hour in, you're like you think you're in your own pool drinking drinking beer out of a koozie.
Yeah.
And you're like, where the hell am I? Oh, I'm in my car.
Yeah.
I just smashed somebody. Jesus.
you know, that just reminded me, like, so I never listened to audiobooks for the longest time, and I have well, before COVID, I have almost an hour commute each way, so like I was the perfect candidate to do audiobooks. And my wife used to be like, you need to do it, because I read a lot of novels. And once I did it, I was hooked. Like I instantly signed up for Audible. But what you just said there, like there'll be times where when you're really into a book, you're sitting there driving, picturing the scenes, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, I just drove for like 15 minutes, like listening to this book, like just zoned out to what I was like paying attention.
Do you remember any of the signs? You're like, how do I get here?
Yeah.
Listen, let me give you a book. If you guys like Boston accents?
Yeah.
So I just put out my first book under Leonardo Audio, my first published book, called The Last Longshoreman. So it's a period piece from the 50s to the 70s and about crime on the Boston waterfront.
Oh, awesome.
So it is, and it's me doing my native accent, for a solid 8 hours. So and it's first person.
That's cool.
Awesome.
So I highly suggest you guys get that. And then if you review it, and I see your written review, I'll give you a mug.
Wow.
I'll give you a mug.
Nice. There you go.
And here's the other side.
I can go full screen here. Let's see. Here we go. Look at that. There you go.
That's awesome. So I'll definitely check that out. That's right up my alley. So,
yeah.
So I was gonna. My buddy Mark Ciulla wrote it back like in 16, and we talked about doing the audio then, and then my career just took off, and I totally forgot about it. And then when I built this company, I was like, dude, because my dad was a fish buyer on the Fish Pier for 50 years, and his dad was a longshoreman for like 40 years. So like we were like, this is like, it's destiny that we produced this book.
Right. Yeah, so I was going to ask, one unique thing about you, Chris, is you disproportionately, you probably have more books that you've read aloud audibly, obviously, than the average person. What is the experience like for you from when you read a book in your head personally to when you read it out, physically? Is there a different takeaway that you get from the book through that process, like just personal experience, or is it kind of similar? Yeah, because I think that's kind
question.
Unique way to kind of think about it, because most of us read books, so in our head, and it's not something we're projecting out there. So I didn't know if it changes the experience, or if you get something more out of the material through that process.
I will tell you that I got a 500 verbal in high school. So on my SAT. So I shouldn't be reading anything. I really should be. You know what? I should be reading signs, road signs, like maybe every once in a while, directions to put together like something from IKEA. That's what I should be reading. But I find myself doing this, having this wonderful living. I think, is it different? It's weird. As I read it the first time, right? I'm really trying to capture images. Like I'm really trying to see the world, like really see it and have it be very visual to me. So I'm a very visual guy, and that allows me to tell the story the best way I can. So now when I read books, I can't not do that, the first time through. And the funny thing is, like, I can't, like, if I read a book, right, I'm going to narrate it. Like, that's the thing. Like, if somebody, like, I find out, like, I'm like, oh, I want to read that book, and so if I don't, I end up finding out that someone else has already narrated it, I'm going to listen to it. I'm not going to read it.
Yeah.
So I no longer read books for enjoyment.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about this on some other shows too. It's like for me going to a museum, right? I'm looking at a work of art about the mechanics behind that image or that piece and thinking about how it's done. Where somebody like my wife, when she's sitting next to me, isn't thinking that way. So I'll never have the enjoyment of just looking at something and taking it at face value. I'm trying to mentally dissect that and break it down and say, how did they accomplish this, right? And that's just where my mind goes, right? So it'll never be the same experience again. So it's kind of a strange thing. If you're in the craft, it takes away a little bit of something because you're thinking about the process more than the actual finished work.
Yeah, I say that on the writing side too. I when I'm watching movies or reading books, mainly when I'm watching movies or TV shows, I'll be like,
you critique a little bit.
What is it that's hooking me? I'm like, what is it that's hooking me right now, or what's not working, and where do I think it's gonna go? Where do I think it should go? And my wife probably hates me for it because I'm like, there'll be points where I want to pause it and be like, hey, like this, why I don't know why they did this, or like.
Yeah, if you're creating content, like we'll be creating some like original content for Leonardo Audio, and like if you're a creator and you're watching something, like it's no longer, I've been a performer for 25 years. I've been on sets. Like I know marks. I know how to like work on a TV show. Like a lot of people don't know that. Like when they're watching a TV show, and so that's why I know, like I can tell when a television show has been shot in a small market, because I'll be able to tell when they hire the under 5 guy that really doesn't know how to act, that does that like it's their first day on the set. And you can tell when you're watching something. Like I could tell in the old like Law and Orders, like when they ran out of people and like they grab somebody and like they say their one line, here's your cake, Mr. Johnson, and like they bone that, and it takes everybody out of the whole thing. They can't move the story forward because they stink. Like it happens, and it happens a lot in small markets when they want to go to these small markets and no one knows what they're doing. And like so it's funny, and I'll tell you another thing that has happened to me, because basically now I'm the world's best proofreader. Like literally, I find errors and I'm not again, I was a 500 verbal guy. I shouldn't be this guy. I'm not a syntax guy. I'm not like a verb tense guy, like fixing it all the way through. But I find like when you narrate things out loud, you find everything. It's the most foolproof way to know if your book is well written, like is clean or not. Because if I can't say it, it's not clean. It's not like, something screwed up there. So, and that's why I tell like people, if I'm reading something that hasn't been out yet, I say, you might want to wait until I'm done recording this. And then I'll give you, you'll get it for free. Like you won't have to pay like a copy edit on a pass. or a proofer, like I'll give you this annotated version and you just fix what's in red. Like I'll do people a favor sometimes, if they're nice to me.
How long does it take you, Chris, to do like a full novel? Like somebody hands you, like, say, a 400-page book. Like, what does that process look like start to finish? Is that something when you see 12 hours of audio, is that you just like, okay, I'm gonna work in the studio for 8
rules?
How does that break down?
Joel, a couple of rules. Like basically, it's never pages anymore; it's words. So, like, if a book is 400 pages, that means nothing to me.
Okay.
If it's 90,000 words, now we're talking. Now I know what that is. Now that's between 8.7 and 9 hours. Because an average hour is going to be between 9,000 and 9,300 words. That's an hour of audio. So we work in ratios because I hop into my booth here, right? And I've got my computer, my iPad set up, everything's here. Start working. I make mistakes as I go. Normal ratio, like the mean of the entire industry, is going to be 2 to 1. So 2 hours to finish 1 hour of audio. But add an hour to that. Why? For the prep. Because we always have to read every book before we read it, before we narrate it. Everyone has to read every word in their book. So that's a 3 to 1 ratio. 3 to 1 is the average ratio in the industry, all in.
Wow.
If you might have a very, like, I like when I read projects with my pseudonyms. I've got 2 of them. I've got 2 pseudonyms that are out there. I can't mention the names, but they're out there.
Why is that something that you would be embarrassed to do?
Well, Rogerio, it's like this. We don't, like Egon said, now the Ghostbusters is out again. Like Egon said in Ghostbusters, the original good Ghostbusters, he said, don't cross the streams. It would be bad.
Yeah.
So that means that I don't want the housewife that just dropped her kids off from school to school and is now in the car and has an hour of driving before she does some errands and, has a little time by herself, wants to listen to a project that might have a few scenes in it, but they're subtle. They're not too, they're only, if there's an X, it's like 1X. It's basically NC-17. But then we don't want that person to mix with the person who understands BDSM fully and owns a Taz, as well as a St. Andrew's cross. Those people can't be in the same room. They cannot be in the same room, and they can't be in the same universe. And they're both part of erotica. They're both in that kind of same planet. So that's why we have this guy, and then we have this guy, and they don't mix. They don't mix. They don't talk to each other. All right.
See that with authors too. There's authors that do that, right? They'll have a romance name, porn name.
Yeah,
right?
Pen names, absolutely. Nom de plume, absolutely. And they take full advantage, because some of these, they just can gather a lot of sales with particular types of books and particular genres. So, when they play those cards right, they will kick ass in their careers.
Yeah.
I got doing that too. I do a lot of New England sports art, but I also do fine art. So it's like, okay, I'll paint Tom Brady, but not a bowl of fruit. So it's like, who the hell am I as an artist, right? So I thought about doing a pseudonym for
different name. Yeah. I mean, if you like with any of these things, is it worthwhile for the groups to mix, or is it worthwhile for them to be separated? Like, in general, I might do, I'm a BC grad. BC is a Jesuit university. I might have people who are Jesuits who've written books that have spiritual themes, and they want me to read them, right? But then, the next week I'll have, another company come to me and go, hey, these 2 people are gonna, this is like I got an Italian billionaire who wants to mingle with a Boston politician working at the State House. It's tailor-made for you, Ciulla. You know, and it's all sex. So the reason why I started talking about this is sex scenes have very low ratios. You know, for some reason I could just get right through that really easy. You know, I just get right through that. And then for some reason there's not that many mistakes in those scenes. I don't know what to tell you guys. I don't know what to tell you.
Charge twice as much. Half as long. Everybody wins. It's a great time. What are you gonna do, right?
Everybody wins.
Everybody.
Wait, who was the guy in New England that used to write that act after every article? Was it the Herald? Everybody wins.
Not Sean Hannity.
No. Yeah, I'm not gonna remember. Yeah. Oh man. That's I had a question that I'm completely the erotica talk got me off track here. So
yeah, John's not the guy for the triple X subjects.
No, what? No.
Brazilian waxes. You brought the Brazilian guys.
This is true. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. I know what I was going to ask now. It came back to me. So at this stage, I mean, in your career, I mean, you've done over 370 books now. Do you get projects that you turn down, or do you view it a job as a job? Like you're going to make it work, even if it seems like something that's like, this is not my expertise. This is probably not the right job for me.
I don't really normally turn down jobs. The only reason I would turn down a job would be that like I don't have a pseudo setup for a particular type of work. Like so, if there's like a, or if it's politically I don't want to do it. You know, like, so in this political climate, there's some jobs that, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I have a political science degree. I worked in the State House in Massachusetts, and I worked for Ed Markey. So you can have an idea of what side, like in the political spectrum I work on, but I was the most conservative person in our office. So I'm a Charlie Baker, like Paul Cellucci, Bill Weld guy. Like I'm a middle of the road guy. That would, if I could fall politically on a spectrum, would be on the Republican side in that environment where you have a full normal spectrum. This is not normal times. This is like crazy times. And you guys know you're in New Hampshire. You know, there's lots going on up there. And like to think that John Sununu is closer to Charlie Baker now than like the other people that are in this world is nuts. Like, so this is just a really crazy time. But what did you guys ask me?
About turning down jobs.
Yeah. No, turning down jobs. Yeah. So like, you know, but like, so if someone was going to give me like a Fox News book, like I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to do it. It's not my thing. I'm not going to not my thing. I've done a couple of anti-Trump books because one was specifically based on his business practices before, like he had anything to thinking about politics, like how he didn't pay like his subcontractors and stuff. And it's like some of those stories are crazy. And even like in boxing, talk to boxing people about Trump. Crazy talk, like how like when he was putting fights on at the Taj in Jersey and trying to rip people off then, like, and you're trying to rip like promoters and boxing off. Like who's the king of ripping people off? Like boxing promoters. Nobody better at it than that. So but like, you know, and like so there are narrators who do have pseudonyms to be able to market things the right way. And again, it's like not crossing the streams. So if I can't cross those streams, I'm not gonna, I won't do the book. But normally, when you do find out that a book's going to be hard, like either like really hard science or hard finance terms or a lot of research, a lot of foreign terms, you usually have to like go to the producer and publisher and say, hey, this is going to be hard. Can you help me with research, or can I get a bump in my rate? That's usually the way you handle it, because it's going to be more time on your side, like to do it. But in general, do I turn jobs down? Thankfully, the goal is to not turn jobs down. The goal is to set your schedule up so that you don't turn jobs down. Why? Because if you turn a job down, you're not turning one job down. You're most likely turning 3 jobs down. And by that, I mean, you turn them down, right? And they say, oh, it's fine. No, you're cool. But you can't control them grabbing somebody else who's as good as you and does what you do.
Yeah.
When they're doing it now. And you're no longer doing it now for them. So the next job, are they going to go back to you? Or are they going to go to that other person who's just as good as you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I feel the same. Yeah.
Then you've got to keep working to try to like get them back on your radar. Hey. And I'll tell you, during COVID, that means you're not going to get together at a mixer. You're not going to like talk to them at like over a drink. You got to be like, oh, when do you like to receive your emails? Like, and try to find them on like online somewhere where they're, doing some sort of like, like presentation on Clubhouse or something, but that's so that's why we try to not turn jobs down, because we know they're valuable, and we know our relationships are valuable. Like this job, recording audiobooks, is all about relationships. Having our producers like us and we like them, and having it be a little more human than some of the other performance industries. This is publishing. You know what I mean? Even though it's entertainment, it's publishing. These are book people. Okay, so the conversations are lower, chill, more introverted. In general, these are book people. These are the book people that were book people in college and book people in high school. So if they're book people, understand that they're more to the introverted side than the extroverted side, and actors are going to be more on the extroverted side. So let's find that middle ground to communicate. The other thing is, like, I have like say 25 different clients that will cycle back to me and work with me. They all may have a different view of who I am. All of them. Most of them don't even know I'm from Boston. They have no idea. I've been working hard to kind of like make that with the Boston voice guy moniker and the handle and doing that, like trying to really get things moving so that especially for all the Boston sports books, like no one else should be reading a Boston sports book except for me. Are you kidding me? Like, literally, I'll say that 1,000 times. Are you kidding me? Like, you know who I am? Like, no, that's that. Like, you're talking to a sports radio guy. Like, I've been doing characters on sports radio since the dawn of time and not getting paid for it. So, I know it well.
Yeah. Well, what about, we're in the world now where there's a lot of self-publishing and,
Sure.
it's a crazy world where it can be done very professionally. But not necessarily. So when you were talking about a job being tough because of having to do research and this and that, that makes sense. But what about, because of all this self-publishing, do you run into a lot of jobs that are tough because, to your point, where you read through it and you see mistakes and you see things that you're reading it like, oh man, like, how am I going to do this? Like,
John, when we get busy, if we're busy, right, most of the jobs we're getting are from publishers or producers. So most of the time you're not going to find a book like that, but I will, even from big publishers, I'll find a book every once in a while that gets through. There are some publishers like Audible and Podium. Every once in a while, they'll grab a book that is, because they'll just grab the audio and not have the e-rights. That book may not have been proofed as best as we would like, because it's getting really good sales, right? They know the author, and the series is getting really good sales. But they've already put like 2 or 3 books out, and the books are out, and there's no audio for them yet. So they'll grab them, and acquisitions will grab them, and then they'll hire us, and there's no middle person there. It just goes right to us. And so then when we get the book, we're like, I'm seeing 2 or 3 pickups a page. So when that happens, that's happened to me a couple of times. We had one series that we had to shut it down because there was too many mistakes. It was just slowing the ratio way down, and the publisher was not happy about it. They spun back to the author and said, "Hey, you've got to fix this." So it can't, so to get back to your question, in the self-publishing world, yes, it can. And then we have to just understand, if we're, I'm at a different level now. I'm I'm an entity now. So if I grabbed a book like that, now this all comes part of the deal, where if I'm doing some, say I like a book, I think it's a gem, but it needs a rewrite, or it needs a major copy edit, that has a dollar value. And so, say if I'm handling all production costs, because I'm now going to be publishing it, it will then have to make up that money before it hits a marker where they start to get paid. You know what I'm saying? So I'll have to make up all that money back before they get paid on it. But it's all part of the process, in self-publishing. So I'm not, if I saw a book like that, I would know what to say. I would know, hey, this is a 12-hour copy edit, so this is a $600 job that needs to get done by either me or someone. And I don't want it to be me, because that's not what I do. So maybe I'll, if I still do work with them, I subcontract someone to do that, and it somehow incorporates into the deal where everyone's happy.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah, there's a new trend here in Brazil. I don't know if you have there in USA now. It's a summarized version of a book. Like you have
abridged.
Yeah. You have 8 hours compressed into 12 minutes.
No, jeez.
Yeah.
Cliff Notes?
I was going to say,
some people love it. I think that's really weird, and that would be the end of your industry there as a voice.
Oh, I could crank out a lot more jobs.
I don't know what that is, Jerry. That sounds like something that I would want to smash with a hammer.
Yeah, probably you would. Yeah, but I have been receiving lots of advertising on that. Read 400,000 pages in 12 minutes. Oh, fuck. That wouldn't work. That just sounds wrong to me.
Yeah.
And do you think that's going to stick to some people, or is just a trend that's going to go on?
I don't know. Well, I'd have to see what you're talking about specifically, like what that means. If someone's abridging it that much, what happens in the States here, excuse me, is they'll take an 8-hour book and they'll make it into like 5 or 5.5, and they'll take out the excess stuff, and mainly only the big 5 publishers are doing that. Only the big 5, like no one else is abridging books, and they're only doing it for their largest titles, that they know are going to do the largest numbers, because there's no, to put those man hours into that book anyway, is setting it up that they need to see the numbers at least come back to that second project, and that's not how their numbers operate, so I don't know. I'd have to get an example of what you're looking at, and if someone's doing a 12 minute book in 8 hours. I
mean, unfortunately, the day and age we live in now, right? Think about like YouTube, kids now. I'm gonna sound like an old man, kids these days though, but all they want to do is watch YouTube now. I try to put an episode of something on like Netflix for my son, and like he's like, "Can I watch YouTube?" And I'm like, "No, like stop putting it on YouTube. It's like a 5-minute video of a kid playing Minecraft."
Good for YouTube.
Like,
you're on YouTube now. They're listening to us, man.
This is true. This show's getting blocked now. No, no, but the attention span though.
Praise the YouTube. Praise the YouTube.
YouTube
is my friend. YouTube is my friend.
Whatever it takes to get us get us some more subs. Yeah. No, but the attention span these days is just it's crazy short. So no, I would never want anything to do with what Rogerio just mentioned there. But by the way, now I'm gonna we've always said Rogerio, and you say his name right now, we look like jackasses.
Sorry.
So that's gonna be in my head every time I say his name now.
Don't worry about that. I'm used to it.
I mean, you can't really mess up John, so
we call him Han, sir, like Han Solo, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Rogerio, when he meets you in person, is gonna put you in a Darce choke.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we can have a beer if we ever meet in person. It's we've talked about it. He's down in Brazil. One of these days we'll meet at a con. We'll have a beer in person instead of virtually here. So
do a Miami trip.
There you go.
Meet in the middle.
Yeah. I would meet loads of Brazilians over there already.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, yeah. Anyways, I would want nothing to do with that abridged of a book. I don't know. I feel like it would cheat out the whole getting involved in it and just like getting absorbed into the story and the characters. I gotta assume that's something like Cliff Notes, like for real. Like it's like, how do you even just get the simple plot points or something? Like I don't know. But
that can be useful sometimes. Like for example, we don't know every and each person that comes to the show, and we have to do a quick research, and like I do in one day. And sometimes I don't have the time to go through the whole thing, and I get some kind of abridged version of the person, and I usually make loads of mistakes. I get embarrassed, and I ask the wrong things, but I don't give a fuck. There's no way I'm gonna get to grab the whole thing about something. In that case, I would, get a shortened version of things.
Rogerio, your head's on fire.
Yeah, it is, and it's hot here.
Your head's on fire. What is going on?
Yeah,
oh man,
I'm heated up.
What a bad day to take peyote.
Okay, it was, yeah.
What a bad take to that ayahuasca. What is it?
Ayahuasca. You know the subject, yeah. Peyote. Peyote is something I can find in here, but ayahuasca, I had a kind of 2 shots of that some time ago.
Picked the wrong day to stop sniffing glue.
Yeah,
that's what we have up here, right?
Yeah. Since my beer is over, I don't have anything else, so I'm sticking to the fire on the background.
Jake DeBrusque asked for a trade. Jake DeBrusque. Do you know who he is? Do you have any idea right now? No
idea.
You guys are lost. You know Bees fans here? No Bruins fans? God.
Oh, hey, listen. My father-in-law already hates me for that because my dad didn't watch hockey growing up, so I never watched hockey. That's the
old-time hockey.
The one sport that I never got obsessed with, like baseball, NBA, NFL. Like I was obsessed with all 3 of those, and we just never watched hockey until now.
Celtics.
Exactly.
Celtics.
Yeah. I know enough of the legend names though in hockey and current names. I have to. Most of my friends are diehard Bruins fans, so I feel like an idiot sometimes. But
John, baseball guys. Baseball's our GM. That's what we do.
Yeah, we're big baseball guys.
We have Sox.
Yeah. I was saying earlier before we came on the air, Chris, my brother runs that casting business, and I was almost an extra in Fever Pitch with Jimmy Fallon.
No, really.
Obviously, like they filmed that scene when he runs up to Drew Barrymore there along the first baseline. It was like after one of the games, he's like, "Hey, we just need some people to fill in the crowd. You want to come on down or something?" I don't know. It was like a Wednesday night. I was like, "Yeah, I've worked all day." It's like, "Yeah, I'm good," But I could have been in fever pitch in the background. Like,
you didn't miss much. Trust me, it's okay. Yeah. I've been furniture enough in my life to know.
Yeah,
I've been a lamp enough in my life to know. You're fine.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, big deal.
I would have been all about it if I could.
Well, that movie Fever Pitch was originally filmed. They were supposed to have lost. The World Series.
I remember this story. Yeah,
they had to refilm the outcome of that season, so they had to reshoot all that stuff. So that was part of it too. The story had gone differently.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Chris, because obviously you still do some acting too, on top of the books. Do you have? I mean, the thing that stuck out to me the most was being on Gotham, because I'm just a huge Batman nerd. Do you have any acting jobs that you look at as I don't know, like your favorite roles that you got? Anything that stands out?
Let's see, on cam. You're always. It's kind of funny. You don't, when you're in the moment, like you're enjoying, you're just doing your work, right? You know what I mean? And then it's done, and you kind of get into a process of like, the job is the job, and then move on to the next job. Like let it be. Don't put it up on a pedestal. And so, but I I like working on TV. I did an episode of a Castle that I didn't even say anything, but I got killed I died in a church, and then you're in the rest of the whole show. Like, you are basically like your big headshot is like in the middle of the screen as everyone's talking around you. And then I had a whole day of like them talking around me in the morgue in Castle. And trying to think, it's more the days that sucked.
You remember
the ones you remember. And it's funny. Because I love all the acting work. You know what I mean? I love all the stuff that I've done. Being like, and the Riddler, the actor who played the Riddler, Corey was a great dude. It was fun. I was his first kill. I was his first like live kill on that show. So it was like his coming out party. And cool. And I got to play Hamlet. I got to deliver Shakespeare's lines on stage, and that was pretty cool. That was fun. And then they found out that like I was basically like, what stinks is when they find out that you can do stunts when you're not a stunt guy. Because they're like, oh no, we don't need a stunt guy to come in. Chris can do it. He's awesome. And then Chris ends up like, being on the shelf for 8 weeks because he whacked his hip or he like whacked his elbow, whatever the case. Because that's not my job. I don't
walking at plus, man.
I sell it, but I hurt myself. But like it's the days that sucked that you remember. Like I was in Underdog. I was in reshoots in LA that we were shooting for Rhode Island. And I remember playing a I was a firefighter, and I had literally 3 lines, like 3 words. Hey, nice catchphrase, I think it was called, was the line. And like I was like, nice catchphrase? Like you would look that on a page, like that's my line. Like who would say the catchphrase? Like who would say that? You'd say like you'd figure out another line, like as a writer. Like you'd say, but okay, let's deliver it. First like 6, and the director was Frederick Duchow, who like I think he did Racing Stripes before that, like an animated movie. Yeah. And this was animated, like there's a dog that was live action dog that was used to be animated. And like I'm looking at a stick at the top of a stick in the scene that like was going by. So the dog is on the top of the scene, or whatever I'm looking at is like who I'm talking to. And then I say, hey, nice catchphrase. And he loved the first 7 takes. The 8th take, he says, you know what? I don't believe you. I don't believe what you're saying anymore. Like I don't, why aren't you doing, like, I literally didn't change anything. I didn't change anything. Like, I know, you know, and I was already performing. Like, this wasn't my first, you know, I was already in it, you know, 12, 13 years. Like, I didn't change a thing. And I'm like, all right, I'll try something different. You know, like, do you have anything specific? You know, no, he didn't. And then I went back at it, did it a couple of times, and he kept on pissing me off more and more. And finally, I'm like, you know, I think I'm gonna stab this guy in the eye. I'm gonna get fired, but whatever, it's just day play. And then they cut me out. You know, I did it eventually. He's like, oh yes, let's move on. We're done with this. And then you know, my mother-in-law went to the movie. And I said, hey, you know, what did I say? She goes, oh, you waved at the camera. And I go, waved at the camera. I go, what's that? Because they cut me out, and all they doing this. Like, so, like, that's one of those signs that you like when you're a day player or something like that, you just do your job, you try to move it forward. But what happens is directors who either are having a bad day or they're shitheads, which lots of them are, will take it out on those small people. And if that was today, I probably would have done something to him. Just to let you guys know. I'm not lying either. I wish I was lying, because now I'm at a different point in my life where I don't really give a shit about particular things, and I don't care if I do a night in the can. Like, I really don't. I don't care if I cared deeply about 15 years ago. Like, I don't want to ever get in trouble. Like, I don't care about that anymore. I will, like, literally, I will go, hey, look at that. I might try to run after that, but who knows? But, you know, like, you try to treat people the way they should be. You know, you want to be treated the way you would want to be treated. You want to treat people the way you want to be treated. But this is not the first time. Like, there's a lot of dickheads in showbiz, and a lot of people who are.
Yeah, but punching someone is not something that you would like to be treated either.
Well, you know, sometimes they ask that's asking. That's asking for more than that. That's asking for, my dad would say that's asking for a boot in the ass. That's what my dad would say. He was around. You go boot that guy in the
ass. Man, that's awesome.
But you know, yeah, like I have stories. Like, my first ever commercial that I booked was a Mike's Hard Lemonade commercial in 2003. Okay, I should rephrase this. This is my first commercial in LA, because I booked plenty of commercials in Boston before I went to LA. But I book it, and it's my first gig under my agency, which was DDO at the time. And I'm on set, and there's supposed to be 3 guy leads, and there's four guys on set as leads. So you know, I'm waiting to get fitted, and then finally, like, oh, you know, I think your agent is calling you. And my agent calls me on my cell. He goes, Chris, they want to pull you off and make you a featured extra. Is that okay to pay you $250 for the day, to have you be a featured extra? And I'm like, and this is my first gig ever, like there. And I was like, I guess, you know, I guess this is fine. You know, no, wasn't fine. Was wrong. You know, don't have the juice to fight yet. No, you know, like, felt like shit for a month. You know, that's that kind of stuff. But that kind of stuff like, it happens. You just got to roll. You got to roll it in performance. Like, I'll give you guys one more story. Most recent story. I'm an audiobook narrator. I'm a good one. I read an article recently, not that long ago, an article. And I narrated it. I was directed through it. I'm expecting it to be released. And the day the article comes out, it's another narrator. Oh. I wasn't told. Now that's fine if you're told.
Right.
If that client says, "Hey, we don't really like you doing this. We paid you, but we're going to hire somebody else for it." Fine. I know. At least you tell the guy. They didn't tell me. Like,
did you know this other guy, or you had no idea who he was? Or
yeah, I know who he was. I know who he is.
I didn't know
Yeah.
if it's like a
I
rival.
don't know him. I don't know him. No, he's not a rival. I mean, I know he booked another job over me, but totally different voice. Totally different categories as me. Might be up for the same job, but it's like two different voices for that particular job. Totally different guy. So like not his fault at all. Like not competition at all. I would never have hired him for that job at all. If I was the casting director of that job, I would say just not like I would hire me because of my background for that particular article. So, that is sociopathic behavior. So there's lots of sociopathic and psychopathic behavior in performance. That's what you remember. That stuff. The rest is gravy. The rest is good. The rest is like positive stuff, but there's a little bit of that gets sprinkled in. That's like, people who are just like, oh, you got like, and sometimes it surprises you. That surprised the hell out of me. I was surprised. I was shocked. But the good thing is it only ruins a day now. Like everybody's human, but me right now, I'm a 46-year-old man who's dealt with a lot of like family stuff and like went from like not experiencing anything remotely traumatic up until the age of say like 37 to like the last 10 years being really like traumatic. So like you're not surprised anymore. Even when it's really surprising, it's just a day. You're just a day, and then you keep moving on. And so that's like the story of my career is like being a bit of an urchin, like staying, figuring out more things to do. Also, like the reason why I'm not an on-camera star is because of branding. Like no agent I've ever had knew where to put me. They wanted to make me, one agent was like, you're like 100% Italian. Every Italian room I went in to audition for ever, I'm the least looking Italian guy in the room. The least. Like, oh, what are you, Black Irish? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would say, yeah. Does that help? Or,
the new fill in it.
I'd go in, I'd have like an agent, and I'd be in the good, like they put me with the good looking people, like the models. And I would go to jobs, and I would be the ugliest person in the room. Literally go into a room, and I'm the ugliest person in that room. Like, does that help on that side? No, because they're looking for fucking stars. They're like looking for Greek gods or whatever. Like I'm not. So like it would be that it's that for forever. And so that's why finding audiobooks has been such like a godsend, because you can be everybody.
Yeah.
I can be versatile. Now to try to get to the upper echelons of one's career and get really good books with the really good copy, that takes a little bit more effort and a little bit more branding and trying to convince multiple people when they think you're something else that you are like the thing that you know that you are. And that's hard. That's the really hard part about what we do. And again, the versatility, I literally have 25 clients and 25 people think I'm something different. They all think I'm different on the page. Now, the good thing is I stay busy because they'll always have something that comes up like, oh, Chris, I got this. Oh, Chris, I got that. So it's a nice cycle of work, and it allows you to pay the bills. But, is some of the copy, the funny thing I tell people is, as a narrator, this doesn't happen often at all. But our job sometimes is to make a 3 into a 7.
Yeah.
Okay. That I make so when you become better and better and better and more efficient at making a 3 into a 7, keeps you working. Keeps you working. Keeps you around.
And how How long did it take for you to realize that?
To what part of it?
I mean, to be confident enough not to be worried about what comes next month.
Are you ever? I mean, this is being dead serious. Are you ever especially now that I've launched something new, okay, and I've not been marketing myself as I usually would as a narrator. Like, so right now I've pulled back from marketing myself as a narrator, and I'm working on all my production stuff. I still have gotten more jobs in the last week than I had the last 4 weeks. So now I'm booked up narrating through probably end of February. And so, but I need this business to succeed. So I'm good for now. I know the bills will be paid, and I've just got to find it's sort of like I know there has to be sacrifice in order to try to take the risk to get to the next level. You have to sacrifice at some point. And there are plenty of us worker bee narrators that we'll just keep on reading if they keep on giving us stuff, because it's what we do and it's what we love. So where does that point happen where, okay, the game has to and just to let you guys know, like, I have MS. Okay, I got diagnosed last November, and it's not progressing, but it's still MS. It's still there. It's still like real. And I went into and so I was supposed to see an ortho for a while. I went to see an ortho about my right hip, expecting to get oh, we think you tore a labrum. We might be able to scope you out. They just took an X-ray, no MRI. The girls, the assistant's eyeballs were like this big, looking at me, going, "You just ran 6 miles the other day?" I said, "Yeah," and I felt actually pretty good doing it. Why? What's wrong? She's like, "You've got the right hip of a 72-year-old. Like, look at all this arthritis," and she showed me all the arthritis on it. So they want me to have a hip replacement. Okay. So I'm a 46 and turning 47. Sitting in a booth for 70 books a year for the next 5 years is untenable. Like, that can't happen anymore. So what are the other things that I want to do? And so one of them is obviously building Leonardo Audio so that it has basically 3 things that it does. It does full productions and then is out. It does publishing, which it handles things for the long term and markets those things. And then it has an educational arm. So there's 1, 2, 3. And all 3 of those things need to be fed. So get those things going. But I've got a long-term goal when it comes to interactive gaming. And I can't talk too much about it, but it's a world that is ripe for the taking. And myself and a partner are going to be heavily involved in some hardware creation and some interesting distribution. We already have a bunch of software that's ready to go. So that world is ready to it's been around for a bit. It just hasn't been monetized properly. And so we've got some ideas on that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, come on, the metaverse, right? It's coming up, so get involved.
My best friend from high school worked for Sony. Like, he's one of the world's most renowned facial modelers. So he worked for ILM for two tours, AMD, Weta for 4 years for Peter Jackson. So he's done the whole gamut of those companies and then he worked for Sony in gaming for about 3 years down in San Diego. He just got acquired by Facebook. Wow. So he is working on their metaverse stuff. He can't tell me too much, and I can't tell you too much. But he said in literally in a year and a half, 2 years, it's like, he told me, he goes, you should buy an Oculus. He goes, you need an Oculus like that.
Yeah.
So, And he goes, it's only $300 or whatever. So that's probably the next purchase. And hopefully it'll get me into a little bit of gaming. I haven't played games so I was in Fallout 76. I did a bunch of funny stuff for Fallout 76. I like, they sent it to me. I never played it.
Oh man.
Couldn't even put it on. I was so busy.
Yeah.
So I want to eventually get to a point like I told you about the aging thing and all this stuff. I want to eventually get to a point where I can play a video game for a day and like enjoy that. Guys, I work 16 hours a day right now. Like
that was going to be one of my questions. How much you put in a day? That's
right
wild.
now. I'm putting in enough to make my wife hate me.
Yeah.
Like she hates me right now because like we were in Boston for Thanksgiving and I told her, I go, this is work. I go, I'll take Thanksgiving off, but I've got to like do work the whole time here. Like I got to keep working. And you know, like I told you, John, I drove up to Hanover to meet Jack and like sign that deal. And you know, I had another deal in Everett that you know, hopefully we'll go through because I'm handling some like all the books of my hometown. I want to get those narrated so that we have those pillar books ready for these genres that are, you know, so that like in this building out of this company, I need to have pillar books that are established for each of the genres that I want to do. So as examples of our fine work. And so that's the process we're doing now. But once you find them, you got to find the time to do them.
Right.
Like I can't like, so I have a whiteboard over there. Right. And I will like Jack's book is 600 pages long. It's probably 150,000 words.
Wow.
Like, so where do I find it? Like, so it's my job to find the time for that because that has to be my voice. I can't cast that out. That has to be me. There's no one else that can do that. That's me. Other things, the goal is eventually other things, all of Leonardo's other projects are going to other people. Like I'm just the person who's casting. And handling the responsibility of everyone's hitting their deadlines and then having great post people. Once you have all that, and then you start your marketing platform, you know, it should work by itself in theory.
Yeah. Working those crazy hours, like it doesn't sound like you sleep that much. How do you take care of your voice?
My voice. Well, I just make sure I get enough rest. I'm better with my warm-ups in the morning. I usually don't narrate more than 6 hours a day. You know, so a lot of the other work that I'm doing right now is, you know, like I went to. Have you guys heard of 20 Books?
No, I haven't.
20 Books is an independent publishing conference that happens in Vegas. I didn't know about it until 10 days before it because I was talking with someone from LMBPN about the advent of AI, and I gave him some advice, and he took it and then said, "Do you know about this conference?" The conference was his conference, literally his conference, and so the timing was great. I went to Vegas. I met plenty of independent authors that need audio for their stuff. So I had 70 leads, 70.
Wow.
And so, and when you're sending, like, when you're remembering things about 70 conversations and you are sending 70 emails out, they all have to be individual emails, you know, like I'm not doing just one junk email and then picking the names. That's not happening. Like, so I think I was pretty fast at that, but that's still a 3-hour process.
Sure.
You know, that's 3 hours right there. And so it's all, where do you find the time for all of it? But yeah, the narration, you know, we learn. So long form narration, people learn what they're capable of and when their voice starts to change. So some people hit the 4-hour mark and then they start to like feel fatigued. You can hear it in the voice. That means they can't continue because the listener is going to know. Listener can't know that. As a listener, you're not supposed to know when one day stops and the next day begins.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, as a listener, as a listener of 1,000 audiobooks, I can tell. I can tell. I don't want the listener to know when I change days. If that's the case, I'm working too much.
Yeah.
Because the quality's not going to be as good of the work.
What's a book that you haven't read that you would love to have the opportunity to narrate if you had to pick something that you want to do? Yeah, your motive.
Billy Summers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Billy Summers.
Cool.
I mean, I love, and Paul Sparks is awesome. Like, I love his work. His work is like, he's one of the best actors that we have today. Like, his character work is unbelievable. And his work on that book was unbelievable. Like, I love it. He made some choices that I wouldn't have made, but that didn't make them wrong. Like, his book, like, I loved every second of that book. But now you guys have talked to me for 2 hours. I do more New York accents, like that kind of stuff, than I do Boston stuff.
Yeah.
I just did both Sopranos books.
Oh wow!
Nice. Oh, no kidding.
Like I did Wake Up This Morning, which was which is Steve Sharippa's and oh Jesus, Chris Moltisanti. What's his real name? Jesus.
That's all I know him as, unfortunately.
Huh?
I'm terrible. I remember TV names better than the real names.
They did the book, and I played 5 characters in that book, and then I did the book off the back of a truck for Nick Braccia. Wow. And so that was for one of them was for Harper, and one of them was I'm not going to quiz myself right now. It's getting too late. But they're both for Big 5 books, and both like one is full interviews, and one is like a phenomenal fan book. So both do different things and have different goals. But yeah, I'm doing New York. I'm doing those characters. Like that's me. I do. That's all I do. That's all I do all day. Is stay in this pocket all day, and so that would have been fun for me. Like, so that's off the top of my head. Any of his stuff, any of Steven's stuff, because he's a main guy.
Yeah,
I'd love to do New England stuff. Come on, any of it. And Dennis Lehane stuff. Dennis Lehane, he's like first it was Robert Parker.
Yeah,
I was writing the Boston stuff with Spencer forever. And then and now it's Dennis Lehane, and but Jonathan Davis does the Kenzie Gennaro books, and Jonathan Davis is a friend of mine, and he's one of my favorite narrators. One of my favorite people. And because his book, he's just he did a Gibson book, a Gibson sci-fi book that is one of the best books I've ever heard. But again, I won't ever back down. Like there aren't Boston books that I shouldn't do.
Right.
All right.
Come on. If you want it subtle, I'll give it to you subtle. If you want it hard, I'll give it to you hard. I'll give it to you hard, guy. Whatever you need, guy. So
you just mentioned Dennis Lehane, though. I just had to look at my foot because I remembered that I had got a book on Audible from Dennis, and Darkness Take My Hand. I haven't listened to it yet. It's sitting on my
series. I mean, Darkness is probably not. Darkness is what is that the first? Is that the first of those novels?
Oh,
he's got 7 of those. There's 7 in the Kenzie Gennaro series. Like Sacred. So Gone Baby Gone was made into a movie. Yeah. Sacred was a tremendous. I think Sacred was my favorite of those. They're all awesome. Like what a series! I wish they did more. I wish they did more movies with those 2 actors. I wish they had done more with Casey and Michelle. Yeah, and but and Spencer. Like I would love to do Spencer.
Yeah.
Even though Spencer is not a Bostonian, like that, like he's from like Arizona. And the other for all the ancillary characters around him, to keep them in the pocket, But again, Joe Mantegna is great. Like when he reads that stuff, I'd read like he could be 90 and still sound awesome reading. Like, I listen to him all day long. So these people, these are all, you know, they're people that I can't replace. You know what I mean? So you're asking me a good question, because if you gave me somebody that I could replace, I might get myself in trouble.
Right.
Right.
There's a lot of good New England guys, right? I mean, you got Dan Brown lives in New Hampshire, Chris Golden's in Mass. Like, so, I mean, there's just a few that come to mind, right? So it's a little bit nice sweet spot up here for local authors that a lot of people don't realize are New England people. So obviously everybody else
keep on getting the Boston voice guy thing out there, guy. Boston voice guy, get it done, guy. But like so the last longshoreman is a great calling card for that, because it's the right material. It's a first person. It's well written. My buddy, I can't believe my buddy hasn't done more fiction. Like, he's great at it and hasn't done enough, Mark. And it's just and it rings all the right bells, for, like, you know, that world. You know, to give enough of, like, even though it's fiction, like it's your cousin,
right?
You know what I mean? Your cousin actually did that.
You know, Chris, I got a kind of hypothetical question to ask you. Like, if you could, of course, that's not feasible, but just imagine if the 46-year-old Chris could meet the 16-year-old Chris Ciulla.
Sure.
What would be the what would you tell him? Would you tell him to do something different? What would be that kind of meeting?
I would tell him two things. I would tell him train harder with my tennis and get a private coach. I was a tennis player and I was first singles all through high school. Wow. I picked up singles like midway through freshman year and stayed first singles, barring injury, through my senior year. I think 2 matches or 3 matches I wasn't first singles because my right arm was hanging off. But I would say train harder, because I had a chance to, like, be good in a good college. I could have played at least third singles in a Division I college, and then go to Emerson. Like, go to Emerson College, and then just let it happen. I wouldn't have to say anything beyond that. Yeah. Like good things would have happened in the right atmosphere from that.
Would you not tell yourself just to drop
all the other stuff is like, you know, all the other real life stuff, you've got to go through it anyway. Like, we're going to have pain. We're going to have, like, growth. We're not going to be the world's strongest people. We're going to get the shit kicked out of us. Like, that stuff's all going to happen. You can't stop it. Those are the two things that I would have told myself at 16.
Yeah.
And I would have ended up with my wife upstairs, because she would have killed me anyway if I wasn't. You know what I mean? So I accept it. She's good looking and very kind to me. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, because I loved my BC education, but, like, I'm an actor. I mean, this is what I do, and so BU and Emerson were the better options for me, you know, to do this for a living, and it would have given me that groundswell of information and built-in knowledge earlier. And the earlier you get it, you guys know, you pick up more things, you see more things. The earlier it happens, the better you are at particular things, and the more you learn about yourself. So if I had done that, I'd probably be a director right now in some way, because that was the ultimate goal. But everything comes full circle, and we go through these experiences, and I wouldn't change too many things. Maybe 1 or 2 things that wouldn't be about me, would be about other people. But sometimes we can't change that. It's not part of our game. It's about them.
Yeah. Well, I'd say you're doing pretty well. You're crushing it. So, you know, I feel, you know, we're past the 2-hour mark. We mentioned we'd check in at 90 minutes, which we did not, but I think we were all having a good time, so that's fine. But is there anything else you want to pitch or talk about before we call it quits tonight, or
is there anything else? You know, Yeah, there's another. I know there's another big video game that I might or might not have a couple of roles in. That's coming in at some point in
What does
time.
it sound like? What does it
Can't
rhyme
say
with?
anything. I can't say anything. I can't say anything. I can't say anything. But that's it. I can't say it.
Fair enough.
That's okay. The workout tells it all. That's good.
Yeah. And a quick Twitter search would find it all. What else? I mean, my Discord server is open for things that I can perform. So if people ever want to come, like, chill there and jump from my server to other people's servers, like, it's funny, audiobook narrators have taken over Discord from like video game streamers.
Right.
And so it's a great place where we can communicate with fellow narrators and listeners and fans, to be able to have a visual of what we're doing. And if they want to see our workflow, they can actually watch our screen, which is really cool. Beyond that, it just if anybody is interested in what I do, head to leonardoaudio.com. And it's just a 2-page website right now, briefly explaining what I'm all about. But if you want to get on the mailing list, on the About Us page, just fill out the form on the bottom right side, and I'll be, we've got plenty of good titles that are going to be coming out, and I promise they won't be all narrated by me. That's impossible. As Rogerio said, like my eyeball would pop out of my head and I would no longer have a voice. So we're looking at sticking around for a long time, expanding this company to be something special, and eventually putting out a bunch of like original content. That's what this is about, original content. And so I can't wait for people to hear some of the original content that we're gonna have coming out.
That's really awesome.
That's the fun part. And a lot of it will still be traditional audiobook formats. But like you're seeing a lot more audio play work. It raises the budget of these projects, but when you can pay for it, it's kind of it's fitting into a niche where originally when people heard any sound in an audiobook, they're like, who's this thing? They don't want to hear that. Most people don't want to hear that. But now that we've got Neil Gaiman doing like how big his projects
I was just going to ask you about if you've listened to Sandman. It's wild. Yeah.
I haven't listened to it yet, but I have it because I'm an Audible original. I'm an Audible Premium Plus member, so like you get access to all that kind of stuff. It's you listen to James McAvoy. I mean, for Christ's sake, like how's he going to be bad?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like how are any of those guys going to be bad? It's not going to be bad. So if you like that, it's just if you like the material. Like is that your stuff? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't for me. But when you can hear Michael Sheen and David Tennant and those kind of guys like banging out stuff like in audio, like how can you not listen? How can you not listen to them? Like they're all geniuses. So like they're all auteurs and savants, in their own ways.
Yeah.
And I'm not. You know what I mean? That's the great part. Like, well, what I do what I do because I get myself to a place where I can do it. Where a lot of people and people who I work with too are savants. Like they're great at this. They're like, and don't have to do much to get great. It's sometimes it's fun to just like be a wallflower.
Yeah.
In those situations. But yeah, we're doing great stuff. Yeah, people want to be on the mailing list. Like that's an easy way to do that. And I send out, kind of weekly or bi-weekly, like every other week we'll send something out to explain like new releases or, if we're doing anything. And if people haven't signed up for Audible yet, please go to my website and choose The Last Longshoreman as your first book. And if you review it, if people review it, I will send you a mug. I will send this.
It's a nice mug.
I have 100 waiting for you guys.
Wow.
There you go.
Merch. We're gonna have shirts. We're gonna have hoodies.
You
A
know,
lot of good stuff.
I'm gonna, right on the air here. I'm gonna use a credit right now to get that.
Please.
Yeah, look at that. There you go.
Look at
It's
that.
worth the while, Chris.
And I have to send. I've got to get Jack Beatty his because he's gonna have it on his desk. So, you guys aren't far from him. I'll do one trip up there and drop off a bunch of mugs.
Oh, there you go.
We want to see that mug on that next show, John.
Look, I just want to. I'm literally. There you go. Buy one credit. Confirm. Boom. Look at that.
Thank you, sir. I
There you
appreciate
go.
it. I appreciate your patronage.
You got it. Hey.
And as Bartles and James used to say, thank you for your support.
Yeah. Didn't even hit, John. Painless transaction.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Hey man, the story sounds right up my alley, so I'm excited to check it out.
You'll like it. It's good prose, man. It's good
Nice.
writing. You did a good job with it.
Awesome.
Guys, this has been great. Thank you. I've enjoyed this. I told some sad sack stories.
That's what we want to hear.
Hey, sad sack Ciulla.
Well, thank you, Chris, for keeping me company while I do my art also through your narration. So you're here in the studio with me, even though you don't know you are. So that works too. So I'm a big fan of the audiobook because I can't obviously read something while I'm drawing something because the eyeballs only can go to one source. So it's highly advantageous. So thank you for keeping me company. I appreciate that.
Hey, man. Anything you need. And if you guys want more suggestions on things, I can give you some suggestions of other gems that I've done that may not have gotten as enough attention. There's another book that's a Boston-centric book that I did for Penguin Random House that wasn't marketed at all, and it's one of the best books I've ever read. Now it's a downer. It's downer. It's called The War for Gloria.
Okay.
And it's Boston-based. It was wonderfully directed by he's gonna kill me. I can't remember. I should prep myself for these things. My director was awesome. And he it just needed a good boost, but the book was completely different from the author's last book, which was like an affirmational type book. So the people who liked his first book hate this book because it's not an upper at all. But I'll tell you, just I related to the story so much. The lead character is from Quincy. He ends up going through some family issues and has an MMA background. And the whole book takes place in MIT and Harvard. So, and the father is from Malden, which is, I grew up in Everett.
Yeah.
Everett was Malden before 1890.
Right.
So, I related to everything in it. Everything in it, the way it was written, was just and there was the one thing I did, I helped it out was he said Revere Beach Boulevard, and it's Revere Beach Parkway because I grew up half a mile from that street. So there are landmarks all over this that I was in the moment. I was in the moment this whole for 15 hours. I was in the moment. And awesome. and it's just not it's just not being listened to enough.
Yeah.
It's a crazy story, but it's just so well. It's just for people who stick with it, it'll get you somewhere. Trust me. That I did a book called Census years ago that I won an Earphones Award for. That has to do with a disabled son, and his father is a doctor, and his father is dying, and they take one more trip together across the country. You know, I cried reading
Ugh,
most of
yeah.
that book. You know, I'm crying during it.
Right.
Had another book that was based in Maine called oh God, wait. See, this is where it's getting hit in the face a lot.
It's 11:30 at night. It's okay.
That's
I
40
was a
plus.
night owl reading from 11:30 at night to 7 in the morning for 4 years.
Jeez.
I lived in Hoboken. When I lived in Hoboken, I had to work nights because of all the construction.
Oh, yeah. I keep telling John about all the perils he's going to face when he reaches 40 plus, Chris. So it's all downhill. Once you get that. Yeah.
It's called the 1 in a Million Boy by Monica Wood.
Okay.
And it is
1 in a Million Boy.
And it is about a father coming to terms with his son's death. And the whole book is flashbacks of the son, a 12-year-old boy with autism, and his relationship with a 102-year-old neighbor named Ona. And it is like gripping, you know. So these are just a couple of gems that I've done. The Handyman was a great ride. Handyman was like, the Handyman has the best character the best villain that I've ever read.
Yeah.
It is a villain called Frank, and he's a handyman. And stuff just ends up like anything he touches just ends up turning to like it just gets somewhere. But he's like performing him and being him was like awesome. It was just like fun as like the third act just needed a little more, like to make it like a Stephen King book. But it's still a fun ride. Still pretty fun.
Hey, Ben Little he's close. He's right there. I mean, like you said, there's always
concepts.
There's always something that's holding me back a bit, but the atmosphere is always there.
Yeah,
so,
he's great writer. Great writer. You know what I mean? Like the third acts aren't always have to do with writing. You know, they have to do with different things. You know, his concepts are phenomenal. Like they're great, and some great people have read his books. I mean, my buddy John reads a lot of his. Has read like 10 of his books, I think. Like they work together a lot. I'm available, man. I'm around. I'm not shy. So anything you guys need, this was fun. I appreciate it.
Right.
We'll stay in touch.
I didn't stand on my soapbox, but I sat on it.
That's all good.
I farted into a soapbox. I farted into it. You couldn't hear it because they were SPDs. But you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. And Rogerio's head is still on fire.
I am on fire. I'm burning. Actually, it's very hot here. Not because of that.
Yeah.
Now, can any of you see how many people are watching at any particular time, or any people streaming?
Yeah, but it's weird. Like it's when we look, because people come and go a lot too. So you know what I mean. It's usually, and live is not usually where we get the most views, anyways. It's usually after the fact. But you know, you'll see, and it shows because we're on. I can see Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. So like it'll show check marks that it's live there, and you can see that there's people watching on. It doesn't tell us when someone's watching on Twitter though. So we can't see that, and that's where most of our views have been coming from lately. Okay. I think I mentioned this to you off air. I try to push the YouTube channel more, or Facebook, because people can comment live on the show, and we want to get subscribers on our YouTube channel. But with Twitter, it's awesome to see all the views, but people can't comment. Like you can't leave live comments during the show. So it kind of stinks.
Is that a StreamYard integration problem?
I don't know. I think it's a Twitter thing. So I imagine that's going to change at some point. They're trying to push live videos, so we'll see. But it's unfortunate. One of the last few of our shows, we've had a good amount of people watching on Twitter, and no comments. Maybe on the Twitter thread, but you don't see it live in the show. So
You go back and check it later on.
Yeah, it'll be on our Twitter page. I usually pin the most recent episode for a few days until our next one's coming up. So, usually we get a couple hundred views overall. Like we have to add all of them up. Like if you look at YouTube, you'll see 20 views sometimes 100, sometimes more. But when you add up the Livid Facebook page, our personal Facebook pages, the Twitter views, all of that, it's usually somewhere around a couple hundred, sometimes more, depending on how lucky we get with promotion and all that. But
algorithms fighting the algorithms all the time too, right? That stops them. Yeah. Stuff out.
I'll say one more thing for everybody on Leonardo Audio, right? If they are new to Audible and they're like and they don't know how to yet integrate their Amazon account, because you need an Amazon account to join Audible. I put together, because a lot of the people who I'm trying to cultivate into listeners are older people who are over 60, So I created a document, a PDF that you can click on, and you can pick it right up a Dropbox and put it into your computer of like every image. So it's a guide, step by step, on how to join Audible and not screw anything up.
That's great.
Literally photo, and it'll plenty of screenshots of what's on your computer, and then what ends up on your phone once you download the app. So like every single step we threw, this is about 18 pages on there that you like literally boom, 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 and you can walk right through step by step, and that's clickable on the first on my first index page.
That's huge. Yeah.
That's like trying to set up a crypto wallet. I needed that too. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
For us, because that's new for us. Our generation's like crypto.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shabanunu.
Yeah.
Doge.
Tell your old guy Chris, when you get the bands in town email from Ticketmaster and you recognize none of the bands, like, yeah, my time has come and gone. Like, I'm out. Yeah.
The band you grew up seeing are at the Casino Ballroom in Hampton now.
Oh, yeah. It's Tilly's Billiard Hall. 4 other people.
Well, hopefully not dead. Hopefully dead.
Yeah.
We're hopefully dead.
You should be dead.
Poor guys.
A call and a click door. Yeah. Get him out of here.
I used to be a salesman. Nice racket.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
All right, guys.
Another nice stuff. Yeah, man.
2.5 hours. Damn.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris. Almost got the record. Came very close. So let's try again next time.
Well, you guys just you're feeling like it was going to be handstands, next, and then like seeing if I could do a pirouette, those types of things.
No challenge. We'll
take whatever, whatever gets views.
We can use that.
You're gonna get this. What's that? Is that an elephant in here? Is that a mouse that just went by? Oh boy!
Oh man, I honestly though I do. I'm very happy we had you on. I've been fascinated with the whole concept of planning. Everything to do with the narrator side of things, because I've just gotten so into audiobooks, and you happen to read one of my favorite books of the year. So it was awesome. So
it was such a, if we want to wrap up on that, such a unique experience, and a well-written book, just that the you can understand though why it's not a 4.9, because it's a hybrid.
Yeah.
That's why. Because the people who love it so there's lots of 5s, right? And there's some 2s because people don't like to be tricked.
Yeah.
And that's a choice. That's a choice. I loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it.
He told us he wrote the whole thing before he even told his agent, because he knew it as soon as he told his agent that the main character was him, that she was going to be like, what
No,
the hell is
no,
wrong
no.
with you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he
And
wrote it and then he presented it. So yeah, but
yeah, it was so attractive. Like I'm glad the stars aligned. You
yeah,
know, where I was able to get the gig. You know,
yeah,
and
that's-
and then hopefully, hey, you never know, guys. Simon and Schuster is the Stephen King, universe.
it is.
They went out of the box this last time for the audiobook. Now I just need to get like I need to fight Jake Paul. If I fight Jake Paul, which I could do pretty good if I did, even though I'm old and small.
Yeah.
Fun. It is what it is. It
Get
is
your
what
name
it
out
is.
there.
They're not going to fight guys like me who know a little bit, not even a lot, but a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not
Someone who wouldn't take a larger purse to throw the fight. There's a lot of those rumors with him too, but I don't know. I didn't watch the fights, but yeah, it's
well, he picks guys who don't have hands.
yeah.
He pick guys that can't use their hands. What's the point? What are we doing? Now he's fighting a kid, but he's fighting the kid Fury, right? That's a kid who was a doofus, but actually fights a little bit, even though he's fighting tomato cans. They're both fighting tomato cans. So you get two guys who are basically the same kind of background, no matter what Jake said. I'll tell you what, for a kid, great showman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the fact that he's like being able to pull real boxers and give them meaningful fights underneath him means something. Like that's actually full credit, but that's not going to make him a fighter tomorrow.
No.
That's not going to turn him into a fighter. Sorry, but let's see. If he does like last with a guy that is actually a fighter, then you're starting to talk. But then it's like my dad. My dad had that conversation with me when I was 21 years old. There's an inevitability, Chris. You stink. There's an inevitability. You're eventually everyone hits the wall. Everyone hits the wall. I say that right now, and my brother-in-law at 51 just won in Mexico last week.
Wow.
He hadn't fought in 15 years.
Wow.
Good for him.
He won. I'm family, so I'd love to be like, yeah, he's 51, 52. He's a fighter. What? You're a fighter, 52. What? This new world of like a buck, like with Triller and all this stuff. Oh my God. It's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole like boxing conversation. We could talk ad nauseam.
Hey, we'll have you back on and we can chat more about the boxing stuff.
Yeah, and there are some great guys in New Hampshire. Dude, they're doing some cards in Wyndham.
Yeah,
and like that I want to go to. Like there's some guys up there that have invited me to that stuff, and I'm gonna go to one of them. I'm gonna drive up for one of these shows.
So my friend is the ring announcer for those venues, and
really,
I actually I sold Mickey Ward's daughter a car too when I worked in the auto industry, so I met him too. So I got kind of this.
I used to train with Mickey a little bit. With Mickey a little bit.
He's a good dude. Yeah, he's a good man. So I liked him.
Very nice guy.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, and I trained at Freddie Roach's gym in L.A. for years.
Nice.
Yeah. So like, these guys, it's good to be around them, but you see what happens, like when they stay too long.
Yeah.
That just happens. It happens to everybody. It's just it's a crazy world, and you just hope they make the money and hold on to it.
Yeah, it was too bad with Marvin Hagler, right? That was this year. He passed away, and I ran into his wife.
Shame, because he was still living a good life.
Yeah,
he spent most of his time over in Italy.
Yeah,
made a couple of action movies, and just and left early. He left relatively, but he fought like everybody. Yeah. Like from mid-70s to mid-80s, he fought everybody. And that took a toll, but he still, like, relatively speaking, for his era, he retired early. And it's just you some people you never know. Like it's a and it's funny with a lot of the athletes that are anaerobic, that are in anaerobic sports, meaning their heart rate goes above, like, say, 180 and stays there for a while and then comes back down. And like, so boxing is an interesting sport where your heart rate flies up for a good amount of time and then comes back down when you're outside the ring for a minute and then goes back in. Like, it's a weird sport that, your heart rate's all over the place. When those guys stop, they don't like keep working out. Most of them, they might stay in shape for some reason. I mean, Marvin didn't lose himself, didn't get really heavy. Right. But if those guys aren't training that hard anymore, you've got a high rate of cardiovascular stuff that happens. That's just stuff just happens. It's gonna happen if you don't keep up all that, at a certain level of that training. Like if you're just gonna go really light, your body's not gonna respond to that anymore.
It's like a Ferrari sitting in the garage, 340 days there, right? You gotta open it up a little bit. We'll carbon up.
For high-intensity athletes, like if they were like varsity athletes in high school, right? And if they're in their 40s, walking around the park isn't going to do anything. Like, that's not going to do it. You got to jog. You have to, like, activate your body more. It's because it's what your body is used to. You've got a high percentage of potentially, like, fast twitch muscle that has to be activated somehow. So the sedentary more stuff, if someone is heavy and has always been heavy, then you can gradually use those things to get up to where you need to be. But if someone was, a V6, man, it's not, that's not gonna work. It's not gonna work if you're just kind of doing like a little, and I'm still a certified wellness coach. I was a trainer for 25 years, wellness coach, training older populations, people with risk factors. That was what I did. CEOs, but they all have health problems. So you need to know that stuff. It depends, if you had athletes from way back when, they need to, light that fire.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be so intense and then just going to stop when you retire. You can't go off.
Keep it going.
Your body goes, what the hell is this? Like, why did we go from this level, volume 10 to 2?
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Your cholesterol levels just go through the roof.
Yeah. Well,
I guess just a guy like Arnold, right? He kind of, like, obviously, champion bodybuilder, but he kind of scaled down gradually, right? I mean, he didn't go full extreme stop.
Arnold?
Arnold. Schwarzenegger.
You mean with his heart valve stuff?
No, just like in terms of his physical fitness, he tapered down gradually. He didn't go full out, once he stopped lifting and bodybuilding, he didn't just stop and.
Well, he knew what his brand was, so that wasn't going. I mean, think about it. Like, he last won Mr. Olympia, I think, in 80 or 81, and then he went into movies and was trying for a few years, and then got like Commando and
Hercules.
Well, like even in 87, so you're saying 6 years later, like, that's Predator. You see his biceps in Predator?
Yeah.
Like, so that was his brand. Like, he had to keep that brand, like The Rock. Like, it's the brand. Like,
The Rock's getting bigger. The Rock's bigger than he was when he wrestled.
Yeah.
And he's in his 50s now. It's ridiculous. Yeah. I wanted Rogerio. It's almost 2 a.m. in Brazil right now. So I feel like we got to check in with him and let him.
The screen's gone.
17-2. I'm about to let you go, guys.
The only other thing I wanted to say to Chris was we didn't get the shirt change that we were promised, but
real quick. You can guess.
All right. Gotta take a guess, John. What do you think it's gonna be?
I have no idea.
I'm going game or film related, right? So it's gotta be one or the other.
He's actually going to change it now.
I thought he was just going to throw one on in the studio. I didn't realize he was going to have to leave. I didn't mean to do that to you. I'm sure you want to go to bed right now. Tomorrow's my wife's birthday, so
Resident Evil. Oh, what do we got?
Oh, yeah, better late than never.
There we go. There we go. Oh, man.
That's awesome.
I know what that is. Do you guys know what it is?
That's so cool.
Yeah,
it's
you know
it's a list of what? all they look. It all looks to me like a German beer list.
I know exactly what it is, so I'm gonna let Chris tell you.
Hannah Wertzog, the Germans, Klaus Kinski. I see a light above the storm. It looks as if people want to drive an egg through a storm.
That's awesome.
That's great.
He actually has more, like he really bends, he really diphthongs it. I make things happen.
That's Arnold right there.
What is this? What is this, guys?
I know what it is. I know what it is. John, you know what it is. Come on, don't fail me.
I'm gonna feel like an idiot because I know I will as soon as you say it.
I'll give you. You got it. Like so. What can I give him for a hint, Joel? What do you want me to give him for a hint?
Yeah, I think that's everything I'm thinking of. He'll get right away. So
that's good.
People love the sequel, but hated the other following movies.
Alien?
Hey, that was too easy.
Not Alien, but
Predator.
More specific, sir.
What?
Predator.
Aliens versus
comic books. You're thinking comic books, which is actually.
Well, if we're in the alien universe, I would say aliens. If we're talking,
yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. No. I meant the universe.
This is the actual font that like you could see on the screens when they're monitoring the guys going out.
Yeah.
You know, on patrol. This is like the font in their screens, right here.
This is. I'm so glad kind of DOS. You know, we went back to DOS in like 2230 whenever we played. So I'm so glad.
And I in an anthology a couple of years ago. I got to do the short for Hicks.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I have that in my So I've got some really cool things. You know what I also did? I did a short called Nighthawks for an anthology that Lawrence Block edited, and called In Sunlight or in Shadow, and I got to play Harry Bosch.
That's cool.
Very cool.
So those are the things like in my career that's like people, because they're small and they're part of stuff, like they don't really think about it, but like I got to do that. Like I have them. I'm like, I'll never be that guy, but I got a little opportunity to be the guy for a very small amount of time.
That's cool though.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed that I didn't catch the shirt right away. I mean, Aliens is one of my favorite all-time movies. I just maybe it's because it's almost midnight. I don't know.
My wife watches it basically on loop, so it's always on somewhere in the house.
Oh, cool.
Pretty much.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's her background noise. Put that on.
I think I told you someone. I think I said it on the show once. I saw it at the drive-in when I was a kid. My parents didn't care what I watched. I'm okay. I turned out okay, but it was either Wayne's World or Wayne's World 2. I don't remember how the timing worked out release wise, but it was one of the Wayne's World movies and Aliens back to back at the drive-in. And I just remember, I'll never forget that. We were in New York, and I just remember being terrified by the movie, and I fell in love with it. So, but yeah.
Because that was definitely just a replay because Wayne's World came out in like 92. So you know.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to think timing wise. It doesn't make sense. But I know it was those two movies. I know for a fact.
Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah.
Marvel's got the Alien comic series that they redid now is out too, and that's really good. I picked up all those.
It is good.
Through. Yeah, that's a good series. So if you find that, Chris, the Marvel comics has Alien out now. When does that take place, John? The timelines obviously after Prometheus, but I think it's before. Is it before? It's got to be after
Covenant?
Part 1. Yeah, somewhere in the middle there. It's like in the between them.
Yeah,
but it's pretty good. It's solid. They did a good job with it. It's a quick read too. They're like 20, 22 pages long, so you can get through it pretty quick. Yeah,
they introduced some new species too. Yeah, it's cool.
All right.
They introduced like a queen, like the queen. Was she called the queen? I don't even remember. I read it when it came out months ago. But
alpha variant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Ruggiero would probably fallen asleep right now. He turned his camera off.
Yeah.
But
cool.
All right, we sorry. You need to, I'm gonna practice that in the mirror now. My wife's gonna be like, "What is wrong with you?"
Please.
But, yeah. Well, we'll let you. We are almost at 3 hours now. We said we were leaving 20 minutes ago. This is what we do sometimes.
Yeah, Brazilians talk like this. They put it out. They go on a trip sometimes in the world. The word comes out. It's a trip. When I say the word, it comes out it comes out like that all the time. Like you gotta ride with it.
You understand? He's way too nice because we're almost at our 40th show, and he's never corrected us. But
there he is.
Hey,
there he is.
I went to take a leak, but I took this one with me to the toilet, so I could hear what you're talking to me. You were talking ill to me while I was away. You are a piece of crap, you John.
I'm getting them to say your name right. They're gonna say your name right. Rogério. They're gonna say your name right.
I'm gonna try my best.
Not need this.
I was actually complimenting you. He can't hear me.
He was saying how nice you were about this, saying the name correctly all these times.
Anytime we'd ask him if we're saying it right, he's like, "Yeah, that works. That's good enough."
Good work.
Like stupid Americans.
Piss off the producers.
Yeah.
Never piss off the producer. Just stay the course. Be a problem solver. That's what I teach people. Be a problem solver. Solve people's problems. Don't cause them. Solve them.
Yep. I actually, tomorrow's my wife's birthday. I got to wrap her present before I go to bed, which is not far now.
Everybody's birthday. My son's
Whose birthday
I'll be
tomorrow?
performing. Last thing I will tell you then is that over the next couple of days, tomorrow afternoon. Well, you guys kept me here this long. I was going to prep the rest of the book tonight. So at some point in time tomorrow, I will start In Our Time by Ernest Hemingway. That is my next book
that's awesome.
recording.
Wow.
Yeah, that is his first book. So his first books are starting to go into the public domain now. So I can record that and actually produce it. And Blackstone is going to be distributing it for me.
That's so cool.
That sounds great.
And a friend of mine suggested it to me, and he's like, "You're going to kick ass at this," and I happen to agree.
Have you done any Lovecraft?
It's just the tone of it. The tone of it. This one is like a bit autobiographical. So it's the young life of Hemingway with his dad.
That's cool.
Really
have you done any Lovecraft work yet?
Not Lovecraft. Oh, you mean for public domain? I haven't done too many public domain stuff yet, but I want to do some Verne.
Yeah.
But some of that stuff is still, even though the years have passed, is still owned by like an estate. So which one you've got to check, But the plan is to do Tuckville. The Prince is on our list. Machiavelli. What else do I have on my list? I had another one. I'm trying to think what the other one is. You have it up here? Yeah, I know. It's lost me. But we got another one that we want to do by mid-time next year.
That's cool. Well,
All right.
how you doing over there?
He's no longer on fire.
True.
Yeah.
His flames have gone out.
I'm taking the fire down, but I'm gonna go with the fire, guys. Thank you, Chris, for being here with us.
All good, sir. Nice to meet you.
I have taken the notes. I didn't take the name for the second book. I had One in a Million Boy audiobook, and the second one I think I missed.
How about you go back and watch the show and give us a view?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Like I'm not thinking properly. So see you soon, guys.
Take care, buddy.
Well, thanks.
Stay living. Bye.
Thanks for coming out. A pleasure, and I guess we'll catch you guys on Friday night. We'll be back, right? So that's all. So.
Yeah.
We'll be back
this
again.
is awesome.
I will follow you. I will follow you.
I love it. No, I had a blast.
I will subscribe to you.
Cool.
Music to our ear. Hey, you can sing.
Yeah, there you go. We proved it. Have a good night, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
Take care, guys.